Hello again, and welcome to Void Signal. I am your host, Brian Prime. This week is about Wasteland Weekend, a post-apocalyptic festival that takes place in the Mojave Desert. Costume is required, but if you're a fan of things like Mad Max, Fallout, or The Last of Us, or just dystopian themes in general, then Wasteland might be for you. This episode is going to be a mixture of interviews and my own observations, assembled in a package that's meant to be easy on the ears and entertaining. I've never tried this before, so I hope you enjoy it, and please let me know if you do. With that said, let's go ahead and start. California City, California is about 100 miles north of Los Angeles. It has the third largest land area in California, though only hosting about 15,000 residents. It extends nearly 204 square miles. I descended on California City Tuesday night. This tiny desert town had nearly rolled up for the evening, but the Wastelanders were arriving for what's called Midnight Line. The general store and grocery markets along the route were busy with activity as last-minute conveniences were enjoyed or last-second purchases made. We arrived at the rally point, which was a closed-for-the-night coffee shop with an empty, unlit parking lot. Farther from major cities, light pollution dissipates and streetlights become fewer, so the night sky overhead was brighter than normal. The night had brought with it the familiar desert temperature drop, and a chill accompanied the wind. Slowly, RVs, trucks, cars, and vans began to turn into the dirt lot behind the coffee shop, forming two lines and then shutting off their engines. Doors slammed, shouts rang out, and friends began to reunite and commiserate their journey. Newcomers were directed into lining up behind the other vehicles so that when the time came, the caravan could roll again easily. Overhead, a rocket launch burned its way across the night sky as people looked on and cheered. The lights of windmills in the distance dotted up the night-draped hillside in dancing red lights, looking like holiday lights on the horizon. There was nothing to do for these last few hours except wait, stretch, and enjoy the air. Wastelanders are advised to not arrive too early. Anyone reaching the gates before 12:01 a.m. is turned back, forced to return to the back of the ever-growing line as a punishment for being overeager and seeking advantage. Soon the time would come for wheels to roll and Midnight Line to begin, but for now, the night was there to be enjoyed. The cavalcade was bustling with activity, and I wandered over to introduce myself to the first Wastelander I saw. I extended my hand, said hello, and explained that I was new. I came face to face with Shitbag. Shitbag was most accommodating and very friendly, explaining to me that this was the front of the Great 40, a continental caravan of Wastelanders who plot their routes to link up with others along the way, keeping in touch, stopping together, and traveling the same routes for safety and companionship. Advanced scouts would report back gasoline prices and nice bathrooms, or good places to stop for food. They lined up together, 30 to 40 vehicles, 2 to 3 lanes across. People eager to reunite were getting out and traded hugs with their tribe mates. Tomorrow the sun would rise on all of them, eager to get through the gates together and stake down their camping spots. One of Wasteland's many roads will serve as the continental divide for the Great 40, as Canadians camped on the north side of the road and Americans on the south. Breeze, an ambulatory wheelchair user, showed me his modified camping van. In the process of chatting and learning about my journey to Wasteland and mentioning that I know some folks from the Great Northern Tribe, before I could name precisely who, Breeze had produced the exact names of my friends, Brain and Rowan, who were also part of the crew for Mechanismus Festival. I was delighted to discover that sometimes this huge world can be so small among us humans. On the road nearby, a motorcade of RVs and cars passed by. Some jeers went through the assembled Wastelanders. Too soon, someone called. Half an hour passed. We visited a while, chatted, and enjoyed the night air, but Soon the call came down the line from the lead vehicles on our dirt patch. Hasty goodbyes were given, and then we all scrambled back to the vehicles. It was time to move into midnight line. As the engine started up, piercing the quiet of the night, fireflies of excitement were all around. They're lined up behind the Great 40. We followed them to the dirt road that'd take us to day one of Wasteland Weekend, and my first camping experience ever in the Mojave Desert. We went bumping off the road and into the dirt, rattling and jostling and following the line of cars. A wooden sign advertised Wasteland Radio 88.3, so off went the Bluetooth and familiar beats as we swapped to the FM. I turned the dials and heard the familiar static crinkles, crunches, and pops come hissing through the speakers. There was only a faint, constant static, so we switched it off for a time. On down the road, we bumped in silence, checking the radio every 10 to 15 minutes. But the static hum remained. Utility carts and ATVs of various kinds buzzed up and down the line. After some time on the road to our left, the overeager RVs we'd seen pass by before headed back down the line to do it all again. The line would stop for short periods, 5 minutes once, 10 another. People would shut off their engines, get out, speak to neighbors, stretch, or relieve themselves out in the desert, just beyond the barely penetrating light of the line. Some switched off their headlights to save battery, as it was plenty lit from so many other vehicles. From time to time, I'd pop the radio back on to check. Eventually, sure enough, below the static was music, getting clearer as we drew closer, sending out songs over the airwaves to keep company the many disparate souls making their way into the wastes. A voice, from time to time, a person out there, somewhere in the dark, calling out to us and sending us entertainment to hold the night back. Eventually, we came to a stop that was longer than others, and engines began to shut off down the line. The midnight line was formed, and the people were waiting for sunrise. Seats were reclined and jackets draped, as much comfort as possible to try and grab some sleep before the sun rose. Up and down the line through the night, passing ATVs, occasional shouts or laughter, people noises. But for now, many tried to get naps by dashlight. The following morning began with drums in the distance. The sun was up, and people moved up and down the line, greeting their fellow attendees. Before long, down the line came a gas-punk hulk of a vehicle with a war boy pounding dutifully on the drums. The costumed and adorned passengers inside shouted, "Wake up!" and up and down the line they went. Shouts of "Welcome home" and "Fuck you" rang out. Soon, the line began to move at a walking pace, until finally the gates were within view. Wasteland staff began to split the single-file line that stretched 7 miles down the dirt road into threes, with staff coming up and checking IDs and tickets, and then providing a wristband upon the receipt of a signed waiver. Staff were patient, answered questions, and explained thoroughly, and kept the lines moving. It didn't take long for us to reach our camping spot, and my tribe mates were eager to construct a monkey hut for shade before the sun got too much higher. After some time, the car and monkey hut were covered in luminette or shade cloth, and the dust, for a moment, settled. Camp was made, and the wasteland awaited, and day one was just getting started. The cold morning that had merited a jacket quickly melted into a blistering day in direct sunlight. People scrambled to erect shades, sanctuary from the burning star overhead. My tribe mate, who invited me out to Wasteland, Cricket, advised me to stop and drink and take a break. Despite feeling mostly fine, I heeded the advice and took a moment out of the sun to cool. As I was sitting, watching people about their business, my newly met tribe mate, a more seasoned Wastelander and camper who had been sitting taking a drink of water, took a sudden face-first plant into the sand. More than myself noticed, and we rushed to get them rolled over. They came to immediately, and we got them into some shade. Cold water, a snack, a hand fan, and the shade in a camping chair helped return some color to our friend, and the fear of needing to fetch on-site medical personnel faded pretty fast. But the event made me keenly aware that I should heed the advice of others and play it safe. After very little time, breaks became routine, and I paid attention a little extra to caring for my corporeal form. The Dust Reapers, my tribe mates for this adventure, urged me to go out and start soaking it up right away. The town was built and camps were being hastily erected, but already people were donning their costumes and beginning to wander, chatting and bartering with folks as they went. Within hours, the city had expanded out as major tribes arrived, claiming their territory and erecting elaborate camps and tents. I decided to take their advice, so after snacking on some camp food, I donned my wasteland clothing and costume pieces, filled my canteen, loaded my pockets with stickers and bottle caps, and set out to meet the wastes for myself. People who looked busy I left to their tasks, others I waved and approached. Hello, it's my first year, I'd say, and introduce myself. Pretty consistently, I was warmly greeted with welcome home. I was complimented on my outfit, a thing undergoing its very first trial and failing. The black tactical vest I'd spent time adding wear and a variety of wires and cables to didn't breathe well, and the sun overhead absorbed into it with a ferocity I'd not anticipated. The trek from one camp to another, although short, became laborious in the sun, and I was eager to meet new people, if nothing else than to share some shade for a time. Camped just up the road from us was the Cannibal Cabal, a black tent with ornate and grisly decorations, but home to friendly weirdos. Themed camps like this were scattered all throughout the tent city, in as many flavors as you could ask for. One of the unique things about Wasteland is that, as a festival, its attendees enhance its experience as much as the event. Elaborate tents go up with intricate adornment and spectacular displays, but after some hours, I decided to head back to camp. My energy was sapped, so I shed my costume pieces under the invaluable monkey hut and dropped into a camping chair to enjoy a cold beverage that had taken on a newfound value after trampling around in the heat. The vest would never go back on. Its impracticality had been exposed in the sun, and the outfit soon went down to being a belt with a drop-leg bag that buckled to my thigh, with a pair of headphones and a variety of wires dangling loose below that. In the run-up to the festival, a plethora of resources were consulted to get ready. Bring this much water, be prepared for hot or cold, be practical. Videos by prominent community members like Makeshift and Nuclear Snail helped tremendously with costuming tips. But nothing prepares you for trying to wear your lovingly crafted outfit pieces in 100-degree sun and heat. Things like material, breathability, heat absorption, and color became of tremendous importance. It prompted me to take extra time to compliment any gothy Wastelanders I encountered, holding it down in black despite the unceasing attention of the hot star. After a recharge and the hottest part of the day had passed, the sun receded and the darkening sky prompted people to venture out again. The city was alive, Wasteland had begun, and people wandered the streets, visiting the city's many saloons to have drinks. Others embarked on quests or delivered mail or bartered for items. A cup is essential to your Wasteland experience, and there's no cash accepted inside the city. At any one of the themed elaborate saloons you'll visit, your bartender will pour you a drink you barter for. Maybe that's trading your customized bottle cap for one, or telling a good joke or anecdote. Maybe just a smile and a handshake. It depends on what you're offering, but most would be happy to pour you a splash for a pleasant interaction at least. You can throw back an alcohol or non-alcohol drink of your choice and enjoy the music and ambiance, each as distinct from the last place you visited as the one before it. And then decide to stay and mingle or let yourself be drawn to the next place. There's always more to see. Gambling of different flavors are on offer, and again, no real money involved, but items, bottle caps, and other Wasteland-only currencies are used. I set out into town to reunite with my Seattle-based friends from Mechanismus Festival. They were camping inside the Theme Zone somewhere. The Theme Zone is the main Wasteland city that's erected under the strict watch of festival organizers, so extra rules are in place to go along with the prestige, and I endeavored to find them. So through the main gate I passed, and to my left was the post office and WCC, or Wasteland Communications Corporation, the radio station. They shared a structure near the main gate where a massive working mobile FM radio tower broadcasted. Wasteland couriers lined up to take mail for delivery. Take this message to so-and-so, and off they went on an adventure to find a strange camp and deliver some mail. From their own website, the WCC states its goal as, quote, "Besides having fun, our main objective is to spread knowledge about communication to fans of the post-apocalyptic genre, and young people in particular. We believe that to display both high regards for ethics and technical competence in all forms of journalism and communications infrastructure in a fun and enjoyable atmosphere is vital to keeping our hobbies alive. Portraying ourselves in a fictional setting as a beacon of civilization even after a total collapse is a hopeful message. We try to do this while providing a high-quality, entertaining, but also educational experience for our fellow attendees at various festivals." End quote. I wandered in multiple times over my time at Wasteland and ended up meeting the radio personalities and those responsible, Vaccine, the Swede, and other volunteers. And Saturday night, I popped in again and sat down for a chat with one of those volunteers and the first interview for this episode. Here's a short discussion with Multimeter.
Hello, this is Multimeter.
Perfect, I got you.
Great.
So, welcome to Void Signal, Wasteland. I'm here talking to Multimeter. You work in the Wasteland radio station, which, tell me about that.
Yeah, so we're here at the WCC, the Wasteland Communication Corporation. Civilization begins with communication. That's our motto here.
Yeah.
So I'm personally in charge of long-range comms here. So I sit in our ham radio room here, and I make contacts all over the world, whatever I can make. Let's see, we've had east coast of Australia, all the way to the Czech Republic, and I talk to people, see what else is out there as far as civilization.
Yeah.
Try and put it all back together. We do so many things here. Generally, under the umbrella of the WCC, we also have the post office.
Mm-hmm.
So courier missions, letters, all kinds of things going on there. And then they team up with the newspaper, the Wastelander, and print the daily news every day that we're out here.
I did grab a copy and look it over, and I did in my time. I went and delivered some mail, and I sent a letter as well. And
Excellent.
I do have to say, like, just to jump in there, like, it added so much flavor to the experience.
Definitely. Yeah.
These are all optional things that are just sort of add so much to it. Very enriching. And you said this is your second year. So,
yes, this is my second year.
You just were that enamored. You just were like, again.
I fell in love with it. One of our leaders here at the WCC, one of our vice presidents. We only have one president, by the way. Just a little bit of history. We have one president. His name is Tavis Atkins. He's been promoted to the top of the corporate ladder now. He works upstairs. Now the WCC is run by a panel of vice presidents.
Gotcha.
Among which is one man named the Swede. The Swede runs the FM broadcast that we hear, Wasteland Radio. He's the voice of Wasteland Radio. You hear him every day, all day out here. I am his neighbor. I live across the street from him. And hence showing up here inevitably.
Right.
And yeah, after being here once, it was such a unique and broadening experience that I couldn't not come back. All facets of humanity, if you want to learn about all the different kinds of people that are out there, come to Wasteland.
Yeah, absolutely. That has absolutely been my experience of just a lot of all walks of life.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll meet people doing everything. I've told many people since my first visit here that if there was ever a group of people I'd actually want to be stranded with in an apocalypse, it would be probably the group from Wasteland.
Yeah. Because
the diversity of talent and creativity and ingenuity is just incredible what people put together for this event. And you can see everything here. I mean, from the craziest vehicles you've ever seen, that all work.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about this is basically everything you see that appears functional is truly functional. So all the vehicles drive, all of the mechanisms work, all of the machinery that you see is in a condition where it's used. And yeah, you see people put everything together. They'll build crazy machines. They'll have wild ideas for, this is something that people might enjoy. I'm going to make it my mission to provide this experience for anybody that wants it at Wasteland. Like you said, delivering letters.
Yeah.
And we have one courier who comes back every year. His name is Mobius. And he has perpetually been our lead letter carrier.
Yeah.
This Wasteland, he delivered 115 letters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Walking over 20 miles a day, every day that he was here.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, is amazing. But like, that's the sort of niche that you can find out here. And people find
Mobius the mailman.
Mobius the mailman.
Male person?
Yeah.
I suppose.
And people seem to find their niche out here. We like to say, when first years show up, welcome home.
Yeah.
If you feel like you haven't really fit in anywhere else, Wasteland might be for you.
Yeah, I have been told that a lot.
Yes.
When people found out it was my first year, and it feels good to be like, oh, this is my first year, and people will give a compliment or something like that. Very helpful, very friendly. Everybody's very complimentary. And I've met, my interview earlier was happened out of nowhere. Somebody, let me admire your cool outfit for a moment, if you don't mind. And that led to, wow, you do this cool thing here. And it turns into a whole conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. And anybody you pull off the street can give you something like that.
Yeah.
And everybody's got a unique situation and something unique they bring to the event.
Yeah. I feel spoiled for choice.
Right. Yeah. You're like, I want to know everybody's story here.
Yes.
Because they're all unique and interesting. And like, you get done looking at one character and turn around and there's the next one. And the people are generally just so accommodating. They want you to have fun at the event.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us put a lot of effort into this, and we don't do it for us. We do it because somebody will walk in and go, wow, that's really cool, and be totally into it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The event puts on an incredible event, but also the attendees put on an incredible event.
Yes, they absolutely do. Speaking of attendees, as a first year attendee, one thing I do have to say, and part of the reason I wanted to come into the radio station for an interview was as we were getting closer, we started seeing the signs, 88.3.
Yes.
And the fun of, let me turn off our phone, our Bluetooth that we've been listening to the whole way, the same playlist, the Wasteland playlist. Right. And, turning the knobs, I'm like, oh, is it AM? No, it's FM. No. And like hearing the static, and it took me back, and hearing it like, I can't hear anything. We'll check back. And then it gets better and better as you get closer and closer. And it added so much atmosphere. It was such great, like, atmospheric storytelling and narrative that enhanced my experience significantly. And I mean, first off, thank you and everybody. Please pass on my regards to everybody who does it, because it was such a delight that I was like, immediately, it was like, I want to meet these people. I want to be. How do I help? I would love to be involved. So let me ask you this. So aside from doing this here, what's your real world look like?
So like I said, I live across the street from the Swede, so a lot of my leisure time is taken up building things for both Wasteland and Neotropolis.
Sure.
Other than that, I work in industrial hygiene and environmental health and safety.
Gotcha.
So I'm all over the place. I tell people I keep workers in the environment safe from each other. It's a lot of what I do. Yeah, just out there. I mean, I could go on forever about all the different facets that I do.
Sure, but you don't care. That shit doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah,
I get here and it's like, what? There's a life outside of this? No. This is what happens.
Yeah.
The life outside of this is to make so that this can happen.
Excellent answer. Okay, so next one. In the year between your first and this, what did you do? Like, what about, if you can recall, and I'm sure you can, can you revisit the moment that you were like, in your first year, that you were like, this is for me, and I'm going to come back?
Pretty much right away. I'd spent a little bit of time. We have a monthly meetup in the Ventura area for Wastelanders in that area. First Friday of every month we meet up and we all get pizza and we can just hang out. And I was lucky enough to attend a few of those before my first Wasteland, and found a group of people that I really connected with. Everybody was incredibly friendly and accommodating, and it was exciting to be around these people and hear all the ideas that they brought to the table. And then I got to Wasteland, saw everything, and I mean, I have to say, I was absolutely spoiled as a first year, already having the connections that I had. Having everybody at the WCC want to make sure that I had a good time. I did, over the course of 3 nights, I went out 3 different times. Once with the Swede, once with Casper, who runs WCC Weights and Measures, and once with Vaccine, who is the other radio personality you would have heard. I say that between those 3 nights, I met the creme de la creme of Wastelander, like Wastelander royalty, with all 3 of them. And because of that, I've made so many other connections here since then. And now I'm starting to get people who know who I am before I know who they are. And that's so exciting. And then it's just like, what can we do next year that makes it bigger and better? What can we bring to the table? What shenanigans can we cook up in the next year? And like a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. What craziness do we want to bring online? Rumors that next year, not only will there be Wasteland Radio, there will be broadcast Wasteland television.
Wow.
Yeah.
How fun.
Over the air TV.
Amazing.
So
awesome. How cool.
It makes me happy. It makes me so happy.
And you, presumably, I'm going to assume you are unpaid for
correct.
All of this.
Not only unpaid, very much in the hole, out of pocket for all of this stuff.
I was going to say, everybody involved that I have met is doing this to do it.
We pay money to attend, to pay money to buy all the things that we build. To donate our time to put it up. I've been out here since Saturday to do build and then the event, but I was also out here last weekend bringing our trailers to site, and we had several build weekends throughout the summer. But really, it's that's all part of it. It's part of creating what we have and the camaraderie we build doing it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term Type 2 fun. But we have a lot of that here. It can be brutal at the time, but looking back, it's like, man, we did something, and we had a great time, and we helped bring the event to all of the people that were here. And how would it be? Everybody I talk to says, "Oh, the event wouldn't at all be the same without 88.3 FM." It just wouldn't happen.
Agree.
It would be totally different.
Yeah, agree. I will go ahead and put I can sit here and talk to you online, but the evening is young, but I am not.
So I understand.
So I will put the last question to you. What is something that you have been enjoying recently? And your answer can be anything. Just a book, a TV show, a movie, something you're jazzed about.
So in the last 6 months, I've really got into the ham radio. Which is what I'm running here. The Swede hosted a class for members of our group to learn ham radio, to prep us to take the exam, and I've sort of dove headfirst into that and have just been learning all kinds of crazy stuff. Radio is magic, and you just have to learn how to do all the physics to make it do what you want. And it's so fun that now I'm in a position where I can feel comfortable and confident getting on the radio and talking to a stranger literally half the world away.
Yeah.
And we share a common language through ham radio.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I can absolutely tell you that in a true grid down situation, don't worry about communication. We've got it covered.
Nice. Awesome. Like you said, this is the people you want to get stuck with.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, if you're going to get stuck, these are the people to know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I always answer the question myself, so real quick, I will try and pick something. I've been answering this question all day.
Good.
I don't know why I do this. Is this conceited to be like, oh, I answered too? I don't know. We'll figure that out later.
It's a good exercise.
I feel like it is. I'm like, what is something I have been enjoying? All of the... I'm trying to pick something I haven't already said. All of the bottle caps and the things that people have given me.
Oh, yeah.
I've received. So, that is a thing.
Did I give you something earlier?
I don't know.
Oh, well, I'm going to give it to you now.
Okay.
Here's a WCC sewing kit.
Oh, my gosh. That is so cool. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Oh, goodness. Well, let me bang my cup on this. That is so cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I have received, definitely anybody who comes, bring an incoming bag for just the stuff people will give you.
Mm-hmm.
And bring caps and make things and give it to people.
Make things, it doesn't matter how weird you think it is, somebody wants it.
Yeah.
You'll be like, I had this idea for this crazy weird thing. Make it, bring it. Somebody will love it. It'll be their favorite thing that they've seen the whole event.
Yeah, and they will think it's so fucking cool.
Yes,
and they will just be about it. And I'm like, oh, this is junk to me. And they're like, no,
but this speaks to me.
Yeah, it speaks to me. Object. Come. Yeah. All right. I will go ahead and wrap this up then. Thank you so much.
I would end up making my own mail delivery the following day and find myself introduced to people I didn't know who shared shade and snack and were happy to receive a letter. Across the street from the WCC was a massive round wheel, the information wheel, and it served as a hub of help for first-timers and those unsure of what to do, dispensing directions and providing event times. I asked about my friends and a map was consulted. They were just down the road and around the corner from the Cockpit, a plane-themed saloon. I couldn't miss it. A sign out front offered a list of events taking place nightly throughout the festival. It was a lively and overtly LGBTQ plus friendly space, as was notable nearby tribe saloon X Corpse, who we'll hear from later, along with many other saloons, camps, and traders. I visited the Cockpit several times throughout the fest and returned on Saturday during the day when they were not open, and introduced myself to the flight crew who were hanging around, enjoying shade and each other's company, and asked for an interview from someone among their number. They looked to one another for a moment and then elected Porch Cat. So here's a conversation with Porch Cat.
You're not going to find a quiet place here.
Yeah, I know. There's no quiet places here. It is what it is. Okay, so to start off with, welcome to Void Signal. I'm your host, Brian Prime. We're doing the Wasteland Weekend episode, and I am here with, I did not get your name.
Porch Cat.
Porch Cat, that's right.
Porch
you did
Cat.
tell me. Yeah, just a second ago. And you, one of the people who helped operate the Cockpit, which is a big tribe tent that is here in the Wasteland.
Yes.
Tell me about how you got started doing this and how long you have been.
Absolutely. So first off, the Cockpit is the location. We are the flight crew, and we are. It's kind of all airline themed. You can kind of see we have a makeshift airplane hangar here, and I joined the flight crew about 3 years ago, officially about 2 years ago, and it is a queer friendly, safe space that we like to provide for people that are obviously into Wasteland, but also, anybody that's queer adjacent, into kink, any sort of outliers. This is your place. This is where we welcome you. We encourage you. This is a safe space, and we like to provide that for people.
Gotcha. Sorry, and let me interrupt you here really quick. How long have you been doing this?
So my first Wasteland was 2018.
2018. Okay.
And it was, I believe, the year that this tribe was founded and started doing this, the Cockpit and offering this up. I found this tribe the next year, and I just kind of how I got my name. I just started showing up, and they couldn't get rid of me, so therefore
Yeah.
I am Porch Cat.
Porch Cat.
And they adopted me, and they've shown me nothing but love. They have shown everybody that I see here. They've shown nothing but love until you are rude, and then you are no longer welcome. You're excommunicated. If you treat anybody with disrespect, you're not welcome here.
Yeah.
But if you treat people with respect, we don't care what walk of life you're from, we love you.
Nice. Wonderful. Let me ask you, so you've, since 2018, not a ton of time to pass, but do you feel that having the presence of, because I also interviewed Danny from X Corp as well.
X-Corp.
Yeah,
Also
fantastic.
Incredible tribe.
But do you feel that having more visibly queer spaces has been beneficial to Wasteland overall?
I believe so. I think that anytime you get a group of people that are going to spend their time, money, and effort to essentially just play make-believe for a week and get away from society, it tends to pull in queer folk and just more outcast people that don't necessarily, find existence in the real world to be easy breezy, all that bullshit. So having a very dedicated space for anybody that wants to be themselves and 110%, I think it helps because people are able to let their walls down a little bit easier, even if they're not in here, because they know that they are surrounded by their people. They're surrounded by just people that allow them to exist and will not question their existence or hold their existence against them. We had somebody come in the other night. I was bartending, and they said, it's nice to be here because I feel like I can just exist as me. And it was just it's just nice being able to see that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that has been the experience. Do you find that? Well, let's switch gears a little bit. So aside from doing this, do you mind if I ask sort of what you do out in the regular world, kind of a thing?
Yeah, I work kind of in the game alongside the gaming industry. I run a merchandise company for content creators that are video game streamers and tabletop gaming streamers, things like that. And then on the side, I like crafting, I like rock climbing, I like my dog.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, I like having hobbies, I like doing things, I like being creative, and that's one of the reasons that this was so, even before I knew about this tribe's existence, when I found out about Wasteland, I was like, I get to play Mad Max and build outfits for this and do it was just like a dream come true. So
yeah. And I mean, you are an example of came, had no tribe, and then now here I am interviewing you and you're speaking for your tribe.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel to sort of, especially here today, just using this as an example of, I come in asking for an interview and they're like, you can speak for us. Is that a thing you get to feel often, or?
I feel often outside of here, not particularly. Like sure. I'm part of a lot of communities that I have, we have collectively cultivated our communities to be, wonderful people, and they're all kind of different. My rock climbing friends, and
sure,
my rave friends, and all that kind of stuff. It's all collective, and it feels similar to that, but it's very curated, right? It's very intentional, it's very curated, and so that's kind of what this was. Like, I was friends with this tribe for years, and then after so long of that sort of vetting process, they were like, oh, actually, do you want to be a part of the tribe? Do you want to join this community? So it kind of feels similar to the cultivated groups that I have elsewhere, but in a different way, because those other cultivated groups are very it's very specific to the activity.
Curated?
Curated, yes, but it's very specific to the activity. I don't
Gotcha.
find myself being able to, if I'm having a rough day, I don't find myself being able to go up to my rock climbing friends and being like, hey, can I just vent and just get real vulnerable?
Sure.
It's very organized around the activity. And while this is organized around an activity, it's different in that this activity is so far apart from everyday life. This is a place where we can just like fuck off and can I cuss on something?
Yeah, totally, go for it. Yeah.
It's a place where we can just fuck off and leave responsibilities behind, leave all the troubles that we're dealing with, all the bullshit that we're dealing with in life. We get to leave that behind and be here and just be our true authentic self. And so to find a group of people that has witnessed my true authentic self time and time again, and then they decided, hey, we see this authentic version of you, and we want that to be a part of what we're doing. That is just absolutely unreal. I've never felt more seen, and I've never felt more accepted than like this group of people.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Nice. That is. I agree with you. I'm so glad that you have found that.
Yeah.
That is the thing that so many of us don't find, and so many people don't have. But I do think there's a lot to be said for, and just based on the other interviews I've had today, community is the word that comes up. Is this? It feels like a family I belong to. This is people who choose me and I choose.
Yeah.
That seems to have been your experience as well. Are you pretty close with all of your tribe mates here, like outside of the festival?
So we talk year round.
Sure.
Up until this year, some of our newer tribe mates are actually closer to me location wise. We're like 4 hours apart, and life just is life, and
yeah, 4 hours can be 400 miles for all it matters.
It's difficult to like I had one of my tribe mates heard that I was having a birthday party, and this motherfucker drove 4 hours just to come to my birthday party.
Oh, wow.
And it was like the most amazing thing ever. It was kind of interesting explaining to some of my non-Wasteland friends why there is a man in a loincloth and a leather dog mask at my party.
Yeah.
But they're accepting and they're loving as well, and they were just like, okay, cool,
sure,
that's fine. So that was wonderful, but that's really been the only time that outside of Wasteland I've seen them, and I think this year was very solidifying for me as part of the tribe. I've been a part of it, but this was the first year that I felt like I wasn't like an outsider sort of let in. I was like actually a part of the tribe. Like I was running the bar every single night. I got to, speak on behalf of the tribe, and so I want to definitely make it a point to like we do tribe build days, we do all this kind of stuff, and so when you think about it, it's like, yeah, it's 4 hours, but also it's only 4 hours.
Yeah.
I've got beds to crash on. I can absolutely make that trip and be a part of it, and I really, really want to, because they are. I would love to see them more than just 6-7 days a year.
Sure.
So
yeah. Gotcha. Are you involved with Neotropolis as well?
I wanted to. When I heard about it for the first time, some of this tribe does go to Neo and they love it. Some of my other friends go to Neo and they love it. I've wanted to. It's kind of daunting. I've spent hundreds of hours on my Wasteland outfits and prep and doing all that kind of stuff. So it's a little daunting to kind of be like, okay, cool, we get to start from scratch again.
Yeah.
Because I know how I am.
With a different aesthetic.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. I know how I am, and I know I'm not the type of person to just like I don't have the best, I do not have nearly the best looking outfits, but I'm very proud of what I've built. And
you look fantastic, by the way, for listeners at home. Porch Cat is killing it with the outfit.
Thank you. I love what I've made. I love what I've put together for this, and like I put a lot of like thought and actual lore into it. I try to make it look good, but also be functional, and also like everything I have on me, I've thought through about, well, would somebody in a post-apocalyptic world do that, or is this just aesthetic? Because I don't feel like if you're in a post-apocalyptic, sorry, it's been a long couple days.
It has been.
I don't feel like somebody in a post-apocalyptic aesthetic and world would be like, yeah, this will look cool.
Yeah.
But I think that's a fine line that I like to skate, and so thinking about a whole ass other festival that is a completely different look and aesthetic. It's like, do I want to invest all the time needed to do that, or do I want to just spend time adding more stuff for next Wasteland?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you just told me you have other hobbies, so I mean, so
that too.
how much would they be cut into to do this other thing?
Exactly.
Sure.
If time wasn't a thing, like if I didn't have work, if I didn't have any of that shit, absolutely, I would be dropping all of the time and effort on that. But I feel like I would go if it wasn't too much of an inconvenience for me. Like if I could probably slap something together in a couple months, and festivals are expensive, and it's not just the ticket, or it's not just the wristband, it's the time of work, it's the camping gear, which I thankfully have, but still it's like the gas, the time, the food. Like you want to, like, I don't want to come here and just like skimp out and like I want to come here and like flourish and have fun and enjoy as much as I can. So if the money was right, and if the time, I wasn't having any other trips or anything like that, like I'd probably go. Probably go.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I feel like if I just bought the ticket, I'd be like, well, fuck, now I have the ticket. I better build some shit. Let's do this.
Yeah. So. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I will hit you with two last questions. So the first one is, this sounds like a thing you are not going to stop doing anytime soon. If you had words to offer to someone who is maybe neurodivergent, queer person, or just a lonely person who's thinking about Wasteland but is maybe intimidated by the Mojave or whatever their reasons, what kind of advice would you give to them, or even just the version of yourself before you came, of like, what would you say?
So first off, I would say, if you can, do it. You don't need to join a tribe before coming. That's something I didn't know going into it. I was like, I need to find a tribe. Apparently, whatever. You don't need to find a tribe. You don't need to do anything. Just if you can, do it. You can watch all the videos on Wasteland that you want. You can talk to all the Wastelanders and have them describe it to you. You can do all the research you can about what this experience is like, but nothing compares to actually doing it, as I'm sure you are well aware of.
Yes.
Do it simply because it is an experience. Even if you just do it once, it is a wonderful experience. Everybody here, there's always outliers, there's always assholes. You're never going to be completely rid of them. But there are enough people here that just want to not only have a good time themselves, but also provide a good time, especially for first years. Our neighbor, he got dropped off by his mom. He knew nobody. It was his first year. And my camp, I don't camp here. I camp with non-tribe members in the regular camping area. Our campsite saw him. It's like, let's help set your tent up. Let's help. Those tent spikes aren't going to work. Use some of ours. You forgot your pillow. Cool. We got an extra one. Like, everybody here, for the most part, just wants to make sure that everybody else has an incredible experience. It is very communal, and it is so welcoming. And that was my biggest thing, is I had a shit campsite my first year. Yeah. I came with it was an interesting situation that I was in when I first came. Yeah. But I was immediately adopted by a tribe they no longer come, but they welcomed me, they helped me out, they took me around, they showed me the cool things to do, and it just felt like, if you get a feeling of like, oh, I'm wanted here. Like, I'm genuinely wanted here. Yeah. And you don't get that often in the real world. No. So for those of you that have never been, are thinking about going, just do it. Yeah. Just do it. Do the research, understand how to survive in the desert for 5 days. But once you get that all taken care of, just come and talk to people. Everybody is going to be just so happy that you're here. Yeah. Nice. It's wonderful.
Agree. And yeah, absolutely. Things change on the ground very quickly. I spent all this time on a pair of pants and a vest that I was like so excited to wear, but it was too hot for either of those things. So they stay in the bag, and Yeah, it's so hats off to some of the people around here. You mentioned the fashion and the costuming earlier. People walking through these streets in heavy armor and like crazy hot stuff. That just, yeah.
I will never do that.
No, me either. But hats off to anybody who does. Like,
Absolutely.
incredible work.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I'll put the last question to you, which is just, what is something you've been enjoying recently? Your answer can be anything, a book, TV show, movie. Just what's something you've been jazzed about lately?
Honestly, this might be a super lame answer, but therapy has been fucking wonderful.
That's a good answer.
Self-growth and self-discovery has been absolutely amazing, and I've noticed it more than ever this weekend. It's really, a lot of stuff has come up, and it has just been very obvious that it's been really helping.
Nice. That's a good answer. I encourage people to get therapy.
100%.
It's a helpful thing.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. I always answer the question myself, but I've been answering this question all day, so I'm going to try and pick something other than what I've already been saying.
Please.
Let's see. I did watch the Fallout show finally.
Great.
I'm not huge into the games. I'd played like Fallout 3 or whatever, but it was fun. Yeah, I did like it. And I'm glad to see I noticed this year there's this sort of the Fallout newbies joke. But everybody has still been very welcomed in, and it's been great to see people in Fallout costumes who are like very clearly very enthusiastic about it, and very excited about the show, and they get here and are newcomers and are so excited. I've had the pleasure of talking to and interacting with tons of newcomers this year, just like me, who are like, it's so cool. I've been having such a good time. I felt so welcome, and people will run into me again. Oh, I went over to blah, 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 like you said, and it was so cool. Great, awesome. Like,
hell yeah.
It's so easy to sort of connect with people here. Yeah, it's 100%. Pretty wonderful. Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right.
Very happy to have met you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me about this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hell yeah.
The walk from camp into the city, or the theme zone, isn't far. But in the process of traveling from place to place, a dozen interesting things are happening in all directions. As I walked in the direction of my destination, people in elaborate, full-body costumes passed by on all sides. Incredible detail and craftsmanship strolling by on their adventures. I passed a body shop that did hair and makeup. War boys and Praetorians with painted bodies of all kinds being made ready for the set. Every saloon with its own DJ offering beats of all kinds and drinks of different flavors. Up and down the roads past vehicles of all varieties, kicking up dust and making noise, delivering passengers or cruising by for fun. A huge war rig rolled past, war boys shouting and offering extended middle fingers, the wasteland greeting, to passersby or anyone looking on too long. Mini bikes, trikes, former riding lawnmowers, and powered vehicles of all kinds sputtered and spat, some acting as taxi services between the city and camps farther outside town. Just down the road from the cockpit, I spotted the Mechanismus crew vehicle parked outside a large tinted dome. Inside, they were still setting up for the evening where they'd be running a craps game, serving drinks, and offering barter. But Matt, Brain, and crew were wonderful hosts every time I stopped in to fill my cup with fresh water. Brain went out of his way to provide good experiences to newcomers and to make people feel welcome. Not so dissimilar from the Matt Brain I know from Mechanismus Festival. I interviewed Brain on Saturday to ask him more about why he does it. Here's that chat. So, welcome to Void Signal Wasteland Weekend Edition. I'm sitting down to chat with my friend Matt Brain from the Great Northern Tribe and Mechanismus crew. So you've been doing Wasteland for quite some time.
Yeah, I think that this is our 9th year. We would have done the 10th year, obviously, but there was a world pandemic that shut everything down. These guys did really good about just like, all right, put everything on hold and we'll roll forward. So we missed 1 year technically, but yeah, 2015, I think was our first year. I think that's what we figured out. Yep.
Gotcha. All right. So you went from, did you have a tribe when you came out here, or?
We did. When I first heard about the event, Ruin and I were just like, hey, let's just go down here. We'll see what it's about. We'll throw it in the back of the Corolla, pop off on the side, just be real dirty about it.
Yeah.
And talking to a couple of our friends who 2 years earlier had gone to Burning Man with us in a fairly large group, something like 45 people, we decided, I think within about 72 hours, that we were gonna make a tribe. And at that time we didn't necessarily know what that meant, but we had like a vision and image. I think I was sat in the restaurant that night and drew up a little logo for us, and made a stencil within the next 2 days, and just kind of came up with that concept pretty quick. At that point it was just something to put on every single piece of furniture that we had.
Sure.
So yeah.
Gotcha. And it turned out seemingly so simple.
Yeah.
And has grown to, this is your first year camping inside the theme zone, right?
This is not our first year. We actually were outside for 2 years, and on our second year, we were approached by 3 different groups to come in and move into the city for early entry and all that kind of stuff, which is in the theme zone. But even on our second year, when we pulled up, they said, "Oh yeah, I know you need a bigger space." Like right off the bat, they said, "We know you need a bigger space," even though we had to wait in line with everybody else. So it happened pretty quickly that we were invited to come in and join as sort of like a larger collective, someone to support us and get us through some of the processes. But yeah.
Gotcha. So what kind of perks come with that, with having a big tribe that's sort of, I don't want to use the word sponsored, but sort of you've got the seal of approval kind of a thing? Yeah. On a base level, they can help answer a lot of your questions like, is this enough? Right? Like you're talking about kind of creating a 360-degree, fully immersive environment, and yet you still can walk around with like a soda pop can or a Gatorade bottle. So they have lots of hints and lots of ways to adapt, to kind of control that. Also, by being in that kind of collective, we know who our neighbors are going to be. And so we can kind of work out the parameters, the edges of the camp. So again, you're just talking about the decorations at this point. We don't have to cover, we want to have our cars covered, but we don't have to have them like encased in cement so they don't look like anything in particular, right? Sure.
So that was an advantage. Also immediately pulling us into their kind of story and we call it shenanigans for the soft term of like, oh, we're going to go quote unquote raid these other groups and kind of draw other people in, because when 2 camps operate together, now you can have people walking down the streets involved in an activity as opposed to just walking around all day, all night in
a town that nothing is happening in.
Yeah. I mean, it is a music event. Wasteland is a music event. There's bands and DJs every night.
Yeah.
But to have something else going on and encourage people to barter, or immediately now you have a faux monetary system that we all operate on. And so having that kind of collective, having this kind of neighborhood helped us like kind of even further establish it for other people as well as ourselves. The convenience of, oh shoot, I don't have anything to put on this wall. These guys have something. We'll just have them kind of blend in with us. We use Coyote Canyon or we use gold nuggets or whatever. And so you have kind of that system to help you blend in with other people. So someone can go from one place to another place on a delivery job and have something to do with that.
How important do you feel tribes are overall, as far as, they seem incredibly important to me, not just the ones inside the theme zone, but the ones outside as well, who have tons of things to do and contribute immensely to this whole thing. But just like, I'm a person who doesn't know what Wasteland is, and I'm kind of thinking about it, but I have no tribe, but I know nobody who goes. How much should I be thinking about it?
I don't think it's necessary. It isn't necessary at all. Having a tribe allows you to, obviously it can be your friends or whatever, or someone you associate with, so it gives you a bigger picture, it gives you a bigger involvement group, like-minded people with a like-minded story kind of adds to the environment for everybody else. Community service is a phrase that I like to use a lot, even in the music industry. It's like we're doing this for everybody else as well. So again, having the idea of operating in a bigger picture is fun. I encourage people their first year to come down, including my brother and a couple of my bests. I just said, go camp out in the wastes, go out there. Definitely you'll have people to hang out with, because I'm not going to kick anybody out, but go have a complete individual experience so that you can choose a group to associate with. If you want to join another family, you have some exposure. Or if you've got a real solid idea, go ahead and develop that into something else. Some of the coolest ones have actually, there's like 2 people in the tribe. Like it's the two guys that live together, or the two people that had a like-minded idea at the store and were like, oh, I'm going to go to the Wasteland. So am I. What are you doing? And then they don't have any other association other than, and they put on elaborate like I said, missions or projects, or even an art project that's out in the middle of nowhere that looks like it was done by a collective. It's just two people that put it together. So I don't think it's important. I don't know if I have the right perspective though, because I've had a group of people. It's always been four of us, although out of the original four of us, it's only two, and there's like 18 members to my particular tribe. We're not always here at all the same time. It helps us put together things faster, and we can do bigger projects. The 32-foot dome it's a lot of effort, and it's not just hauling it down here. It's pulling it apart, and of course the setup. So if you could do that with one person, maybe that'd be amazing. But I've seen a lot of other really elaborate stuff go up fast. Small group. So
gotcha. Real quick on the note of, so you also have the added experience of doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for Mechanisms Festival as well. You mentioned that this is something of a music festival. I've only taken in a couple of performances. I've just been busy. There's so much to see and do. But how much overlap do you see between those two experiences that you have of working on Mechanisms behind the scenes versus this?
Definitely in a personality and a leadership kind of role, right? You see a job that needs to be done, so you do it. The planning part, at least, being able to imagine all of the difficulties or the steps that are required to do it, that's project management kind of aspect. I think that's kind of a nice aspect and experience to have. So that's definitely overlap. I mean, I'm missing the most important part. Being a host. What we do at the festival up until the time the doors open is all just logistics. It's all about figuring out how people are going to get from the airport to you. How are you going to pay for this? Who's going to stay where, right? And backline, all those kinds of details. Here it's, how are we going to get down there? What's our schedule to put it together? And then here, what are the projects that we have? What are the things that we have to do during the day? So that kind of like organization, I would definitely say, is similar. But then again, that's kind of what I do in my real world too. And so some of that is just habit. But every night we're hosting. And I would say that that's a direct correlation to my experience with what goes on in Mechanisms. Like the second the person lands, they're your friend, and you want them to have the best experience possible. And that includes, not negatively, but like putting some of the things that you want to do, maybe to go out a little bit later in the day and make sure that the people, like we have this bar crawl that's going on, make sure that they have a good time, because they just decided to make our location part of their location. So all right, here, let's do it. So I see the hosting aspect to be a lot of it. Fortunately, that's a little bit easy for me because I can talk a lot and I like talking to people. So sort of on that note, when it comes to new people, this is a year of new people. I've been talking in the streets with so many new people. Fallout newbie is a term I've heard, not of ridicule, but of endearment. But for you as somebody who's sort of better in this a little bit, and also with experience from doing Neotropolis as well, how welcoming do you think it is for new people? I mean, you seem pretty friendly, pretty approachable. But what is your opinion on newer people coming in? I have never heard of anyone having a bad experience their first year with strangers. The guards at the gate will tell you that they're the meanest looking people. I like to swear, so the meanest motherfuckers, and the nicest people, because they look intimidating. That's the job, right? And so we're using that, and also when you ask them a question, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's actually down the street, and you know what? I'm going to walk you down there." Kind of thing. Like everyone goes out of their way to be nice. Yelling at you as you walk down the street. I think my favorite is people yelling compliments at other people. You look like the kind of person that would call the next day.
I like that guy. I ran into him earlier. I saw him on the street by the post office. You look like the kind of guy who yells at people on the street so they have a better time. Oh, that guy's great.
And I heard a banter going back the other day while I was just trying to figure out what was going on in the day, and it was like 8 of them yelling back and forth. It was amazing and a great time. I personally have never heard of anyone having a bad experience in that level. And I would hope that no one would ever feel like ashamed of their costume or their involvement. I mean, that whole idea of being a newbie, what do I wear kind of idea, because it is a costume event. I mean, in the city, it's 100% in theme costumes for everyone living there. And so kind of give people in my group, again, a little ribbing when, you could add a little bit more dirt, that's our comment, right?
Yeah, more dirt.
As far as choosing, what's my post-apocalyptic theme going to be? Pretty much anything goes. So I hit it when Fury Road just came out, and so there was a lot of that imagery. The War Boys, Cult of the V8, and all of that was brand new. What do you say? Canon, right?
Yeah.
And then a couple soft years where people were like going all the way back to the original Mad Max or Fallout, which was becoming popular. And now with the success of that particular show, we saw a lot more of the video game aspect. And there used to be a lot of that here as a theme. They decided to cut down on it, and some people had their feathers ruffled, but you know what? They still want to come to the event, so they just adapt and have something else.
Yeah.
So I think I've never heard of anyone having a bad time for their first time, but also you might not hear that. Like if someone goes and doesn't have a good time at Dirt Rave, they're probably just not going to go back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
do you think that the extreme conditions, I mean, I definitely think that they sway a lot of people off of it. What are your thoughts on just like, if you had to speak to maybe the younger version of yourself who was thinking about going and doing this, or maybe somebody who's like, I kind of want to go do that, but I don't know about the conditions, anything.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give?
It's the desert. So you do have to prepare for anything. We look at what the weather's doing for almost a month beforehand, because you can kind of see trends coming in. Oh, it looks like it's going to be hot. It looks like, oh, nope, it just dropped off. Oh, that's a bad sign. That means that there's going to be a lot of the W kicking up, and that can destroy, physically destroy and also spiritually destroy you. The first year we came down, it was 115. And a couple of our friends were just like, I'm done. I don't need to ever go back to that environment. Like that's too hot. It's too much. Advice to myself would be pack for all conditions. I have costumes that won't come out of my box because I don't need to wear a fur coat during the day.
Yeah.
And there have been times where I was full dress, had my overcoat on, had a sleeping bag on, and I still had a tarp that was laid over the top of me just to capture all the heat because I was that cold. And that was a nighttime activity.
Yeah. And on that note, sort of that has been my experience of like, you can plan for, this looks so cool, but you get here and you put a thing on and things will change.
Yeah.
It's different on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. So 2 last questions I want to put to you. The first one is that when it comes to Wasteland Weekend as a festival, what do you think is the most important kind of a thing that somebody could gain from coming and doing this?
Honestly, a sense of community for these small, loves, these small passions that we have, and coming together, which is always a fantastic thing. Coming together and seeing what can be done with a bunch of people that all have a similar sentence of passion.
Yeah.
And see what comes out of that. I mean, this is 6,000 people that all have a love of probably just kind of like 2 basic franchises.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing to yell at these people whenever someone says something that's like, oh yeah, I was doing this, name a music genre, and all of a sudden, someone says, oh yeah, have you heard of this band? Or oh, I was watching this movie. Do you remember the Abuela's dog? So the original book in Abuela and his dog, he does this, and all of a sudden you've got a room full of nerds that are passionate about this.
Talking about nerd shit.
Yeah, and having this this love, and you're going like, wow, there's a place for me to have that experience with a bunch of other people that are just into it as much as me.
Yeah.
Right? That's really cool.
Nice.
That I think is been, I guess, very soul fulfilling for me. And I'm a craft person. I love to make stuff, and to be able to explore that avenue, and then occasionally see someone walking around who I don't know with something that I made. Oh man, so much joy.
Yeah,
so much joy.
I bet.
And I know that any other crafts person is feeling the exact same way. And if you're not a maker, there's so many other aspects. You're just here having a post-apocalyptic passion fest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, it is super cool. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I'll put the last question to you, which is just what is something that you have been enjoying recently? And your answer could be anything, book, TV show, movie, just what's something you've been jazzed about?
What's something I've been jazzed about?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, I'm so happy with the way things are going right now. Knock on wood, I hate to say it out loud, but with my life, I'm just really happy that I have this opportunity. I also happen to really like the Neotropos event, and I also, I love Mechanismus, and I love what we're doing there. Mm-hmm. So when I get back from this, I can just go over the calendar and mark those days off and just passionately work toward each of these events. I don't necessarily love to have my life planned out 9 or 10 months in advance, but I already know what I'm going to do differently for the next one of these.
Yeah.
And if this kind of opportunity to explore and to express myself with craft allows me to be that much more passionate about the next piece I build. So
Sure.
I think that's probably going to be I'm kind of a one day at a time, but to be able to share it with someone like you and say hey, look, here's another nerd shit that I do. And I'm happy that you're having a good time, and man, it'd be really great to see you again at it. I'm just happy about that kind of shit, man.
Yeah. It's good choice, good answer. I always answer myself, and I've been answering this question all day, so I'll try and pick something different. But so being a first year, my bottle cap, I just took my logo and threw it on a bottle cap and ordered 200 of them.
Yeah.
And people are so excited to get them. Just it looks so sick. And it's such a good feeling to have somebody give you their cap, and you're like, oh, let me give you mine. And the reaction of oh, yours is so cool. Oh, thank you. Mine is so cool.
Yeah.
I had somebody give me their cap earlier, and it was a picture of them topless, and I was like, wow, awesome. Not mine is not nearly as cool as that, but here you go, it's whatever. But just to get things that and be given gifts for no reason other than I stopped someone and I said, oh, your costume's so cool, and they were like, thank you so much, you're the first person, let me give you this thing. So
you're part of this robbery.
I will have to catch up on you.
Okay, I'm rounding up people now.
Okay. We're wrapping up right now.
Yep.
So,
Don't even worry about it.
Yes, that's really cool. This is the first year, honestly, I was thinking about it, and I was like, we've done, again, 9 years of doing it. And every year from year one, we've been doing this G&T cap. And so I try to make it a little bit adjusted each year. So this year's is not the same as last year's, and blah, blah, blah. And I looked at it and I was like, you know what? We're going to go without. That was a conscious decision to just not have them this year. I like getting them. It is a nice token, and for me to have it in my hand and use that as a kind of exchange system, because the pawn shop, it's nice to be able to just, I don't know, what do you got in your pockets? Some of the stuff, some of the jewelry is nice, and I want it to go to someone else who's going to appreciate it. So you'll feel free to take it. So I like that. I also have decided I'm going to change what I use as kind of a take home. And so that we'll work on that on the way home. Rowan and I will sit there of our kind of decompression list of all the things that we want to change and what worked and what didn't, because that's also important. And you have to do that right away, or else you're going to forget it. But that's the second thing that I want to put on my list is what's next year going to be, and how am I going to make sure that happens. So
nice, excellent. Well, I will let you go and get on with your evening. Matt Brain, thank you so much. Pleasure as always.
Thank you. That was super nice.
Awesome. Let me stop this. You can turn your mic on.
I came back and visited with Brain and the rest of the fabulously friendly Great Northern Tribe every day of the festival. I brought snacks and stories to trade for water that was divinely cold every time. Thank you so much to Brain, Rowan, Ass Candy, and the rest of the tribe. The opening night was filled with excitement, people eager to wear their costumes, show off their hard work. Near sunset on the opening night, people gathered near the stage to watch the Jugger match. Jugger is a post-apocalyptic sport of sorts. Armor is worn and weapons are wielded. It kicks up dust and teams compete as people watch and shout. A great ceremony tells all in attendance of the legacy of what they'd be seeing tonight. Bands played the outdoor stage in regular intervals every evening. Contests, meetups, and events took place here and there. Perhaps it's a Dementus cosplay burlesque performance. Or a burlesque of another variety with puppeteers and good humor on offer. Entertainment everywhere you look.
The first night of Wasteland Weekend got a little near the limits.
for a minute was a little much, but we're persevering, friends. And it has been such a blast. Handing out bottle caps, void signal stickers, meeting interesting people from all over the world, from all walks of life, with interesting stories. I can't wait for you to hear them. Not far from the stage was the infamous Thunderdome, managed by Death Guild. Death Guild originally grew from San Francisco's long-running goth night of the same name, but the tribe now boasts a massive list of members from all over. Wastelanders climbed atop the dome and perched, and before long, the dome would darken. Music would play and work would begin on readying the space for entertainment. People banged in excitement and waited. Before the fight started, we were treated to a live opera performance, complete with a flaming ballerina, and delighted the entire 360 degrees of crowd. Before long, the fight started, and everybody's blood got up as people shouted and cheered. Thunderdome fights took place every night, so even if you didn't get a chance to see the first one, you'll get to see another one. The next morning was Wasteland kindergarten class, and I was doing my best to pay attention in this kindergarten class as much as I did a long time ago. Our teacher, abso-fucking-lutely delightful, with the assistance of Uncle Foster, were patient and helped move people along a short tour, stopping to explain how to take quests, the function of the post office, the bounty board, the event screen, and how to identify and complete quests. We'd eventually end up in a shaded space to make our name tags, and as we worked, rules regarding consent were explained. People were advised how to handle uncomfortable situations and how to easily exit them should they find themselves in one, along with who to turn to if anyone feels harassed or what to do in an emergency situation. After they made sure all the newcomers' questions were answered, if we had any, people were hydrated and then sent on their way to seek adventure. Uncle Foster reminded people of his erotic storytime presentation taking place the following day, the kilt competition, and he encouraged folks to go explore the town. I caught up with Uncle Foster on the last day to chat about his character and his role at Wasteland. Here's Uncle Foster.
Are you enjoying yourself then?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Good,
very much
good,
so.
good.
So, welcome to Void Signal. I'm your host, Brian Prime. I'm speaking with Uncle Foster in the Wasteland Weekend. And you do so much here, a tremendous amount of stuff. How long have you been doing this?
I started going to Wasteland Weekend in 2014 and have attended every year, except for, of course, the horrible 2020 when no one attended anything.
Yeah.
But it's been a fabulous experience. Met so many amazing people. The creativity that revolves around the event is just mind-boggling. The costuming, the cars, the camps, the events is just well worth a visit if you have a chance.
Yeah. And you are from Scotland, presumably?
I'm glad you think so.
Okay.
The reveal here is that Uncle Foster is from Santa Cruz. And so, the shtick we do out here, some of us put on a character that's quite deep and involved. Others just do themselves in new clothing. So out here, I am Uncle Foster from a wee town south of Edinburgh called Skippon. In actuality, born and raised in California. But enjoy the tradition of Scotland. My family has a lot of tradition back there, but it's many, many, many hundreds of years ago. But the idea, though, of bringing a character out that is larger than life, that people can connect to and enjoy. Also, my shtick here of reading romance novels probably would not be as good if it wasn't in the Scottish area. But we have a fun time at Uncle Foster's Story Time here in the Wastes, and enjoy laughing at horrible literature, and enjoy just being with each other and being who we would rather be sometimes than what we have to be out in the real world.
Sure. And that does seem to be the vibe here for a lot of people, is this is who I want to be versus who I have to be.
Have you had, and with that said, I've met people from all over the place. So, and I presume, has any Scottish person been here and been like, you phony?
No,
Like
they,
that?
I think, enjoy the fact that I try my best to keep to the tradition and to be honest about it. And if anyone really asks, I'm honest about it. I don't try and fool too far and too deep. Although people during tear down or build for the event, if I'm not thinking about it and I let it slip, they'll stare and go, "Oh my God, I didn't know that was your real voice." Or they'll see me in the real world wearing pants, and they'll say, "Oh, I don't think I've ever not seen your knees." So
after being here for my first year, the kilt seems like the play. It seems very
it is. I think I've been wearing one since 2014. The popularity has risen over the years. I think we now have a kilt meetup where folks walk the catwalk in their beautiful creations. There are not traditional wool kilts. We have everything out here. I know a gentleman from the WCC. I don't know if he calls it a skirt or a kilt, but he has one made of neckties. Gentleman here this year wearing scraps from USA Kilts. Apparently, his significant other works for them, and she has cobbled together a kilt with scraps of various other tartans to make him a kilt for Wasteland. So people get incredibly creative. I, in fact, enjoy the number of sporrans that we see. That's the wee bag that you see on the front of the kilt, suspended by a chain or a leather strap. And those become quite interesting because people will wear them with pants. But the sporran seems to be a good bag of choice out here to cover the gentlemen's dangly bits so that they don't get injured out here riding the motorcycles and all around all the pointy things protruding from cars and various other equipment. So
it's awesome, but I mean, tetanus is a concern.
Yes, I get my shot regularly. And the dust out here, you're clearing your throat. The dust can be a bit much. This here, the W, as we will say, the breezes have been low. We tend to not want to say the word because we don't want to bring it. We have had up to 55, 60 mile an hour winds out here, and it gets quite dicey if you're not ready. You'll notice our camp here at the Northern Nomads, everything's tied down with lag bolts and ratchet straps. Not one thing is left untacked because you don't want it picking up and blowing away. We call it the tent races out here when folks don't bring suitable tent stakes. The sand is not forgiving this site. We've been here a number of years and it's starting to get a bit of the hard pack, but it's pretty sandy on top, especially out in our tent city. And you don't have good lag bolts or really long stakes. It's a mistake.
So two things. First, I have heard that we came out with more seasoned people who were like, you've gotten off easy as far as wind. I've been in like hurricane force wind. So, and it is, I couldn't imagine being out here with nothing to save, without a structure that's, supportive. But the other thing is that all of these logistical issues, having to know about tying all this stuff down, keeping in character, costuming, all of this that you have put into it, what's your real life look like versus everything that you do for this? It feels like this is so much of your, I'm going to use the term real life, right? Versus your whatever.
Many years ago, maybe 30, 35 years ago, I became enamored of the Renaissance fairs. And that started my life in historical reenacting. And now I have impressions for the Renaissance fair period, the Elizabethan period, the English Civil War, American Revolutionary War, American Civil War, a Victorian British reenacting, World War I, World War II, Gold Rush, anything I can do that's related to history. I enjoy the costuming for that. And it's a very technical costuming, though. It's like, cosplay. You have to look at the character from the video game or anime or fandom that you want to portray, and you have to get it down to the T. And people can be so technical. And that's what I enjoyed about putting together a military impression, say, from World War I, for a specific regiment or company. And you get to really get down to the research, the looking for photography, looking for extant statistics or whatever you need to make sure that it's correct. But here at Wasteland, you can do pretty much whatever you want because this is the future.
Right. Sure,
And
sure.
you don't have to do any of that. But the skills in doing that really do drive forward into doing a costume for this event. And then if you get into doing a themed tribe, theming a camp, and even coming up with what your apocalypse was and how did your tribe come together and then find themselves here at the great gathering of tribes. Many of our tribes here in Wasteland City get very deep into the lore of Wasteland City, and we all have connections to each other and backstories that people try to memorize and bring out during the event. We have online groups that go over lore prior to the event and prepare for various parts of the shenanigans that they call them, and it can be quite an immersive event if you pour yourself into it, which, you know, as a living historian, you like to do that. You like to take on a character specifically from history, but here is taking on a character specifically from the future. And it can be very liberating. When you're so stuck, you know, doing cosplay or historical reenacting, and then be able to be loosened up to something that doesn't have any requirements on it, other than dirt.
You make yourself sort of an iteration of it. Fantastic answers. I'm going to check my time here really quick. Okay, we have been recording for about 10 minutes, so I will go ahead and let you go. But I want to hit you with two last things. First off, the facial hair is for listeners who cannot see. It's fantastic. Very well groomed. Suits you very well.
Thank you.
Secondly, I always close every interview with the same question. What's something that you've been enjoying recently? Just whatever you've woken up and been jazzed about.
You know, I've been enjoying learning new forms of music these days. I'm quite an eclectic. I enjoy cultural music from India, Bali, Scotland, of course, and various other parts around the country, the world. But learning new things, EDM music is something that I have just started, gone to several events, and just really enjoyed the chance to hear music that has been altered and changed, and the creativity involved in that, and the stage spectacle, and just the joy of the listeners as they listen. So that has been something very interesting for me recently that I've enjoyed doing.
That's cool. I'm going to put a name in your ear regarding that. I just interviewed them recently. Harbinger's Drum Crew are based out of Edinburgh, and it's a 22-person drum crew who love industrial music and electronic music. And they have all of these hand signals memorized, these patterns, and all these drum patterns are tied to the hand signals, and he conducts them all individually, like live. And they are all these 22 people in these fantastic sort of post-apocalyptic-y kind of costumes, like banging on drums. It looks amazing.
Excellent.
Amazing. But yeah, Harbinger's Drum Crew.
I will check them out. Thank you.
Such a cool thing, and would be a great fit for this place, honestly. But yeah, okay, well, that is it. Oh, well, I always answer the question myself as well, just to close the show and close the interview. I've just been enjoying meeting all of the people here. Every person is a story, and every person is a page. You know, that idea of getting to make your character that you mentioned, I think that just really hones in on, like, the spirit of maybe why people fall in love with it. So would you?
Yes, I would agree. Okay.
Great. Terrific. All right. Well, that is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let me hit stop on this. Wandering the wasteland, there's dozens of characters like Uncle Foster to meet. And one of the characters worth mentioning is the structures themselves. All the saloons, gathering spaces, roads, and everything has to be built from scratch. Land cleared, walls erected, roofs put in place. It's a tremendous feat, but these inanimate walls serve as the movie set for photos, the backdrop for adventures, and all of it has to be able to withstand whatever the Mojave throws at it, including extreme wind situations. I stumbled upon another character in my journey who turned out to be a member of the Wasteland build crew and is a firefighter when not at Wasteland. I set out Saturday morning to meet them at the Rec Room, that's with a W, a saloon built and operated by the build crew tribe during Wasteland. Here's a short chat with Snickerdoodle. Welcome to Voice Signal in the Wasteland. I'm Brian Prime. I'm speaking with Snickerdoodle.
Yes.
You tell me where you're from.
So, you've met me kind of over at the Rec Room, and you saw me come out, I think last night, the Horde, the Defensive Street. Oh, I cannot say that one, but the Horde. I'm actually part of Build Crew, So we do camp together in Fort Kick-Ass. So that's kind of a tribe in a way.
Sure.
We come out here, we're crazy. We do the same thing. We build Wasteland up. But if official tribe would be the Molotov Mollies, which is a burlesque group here. It's been going for, how many years have we been going? I think about 6 years.
Gotcha. And joining the build crew to come out here in the middle of the desert, inhospitable, and be like, I want to build this town for everybody. What got you there?
I'd been doing Wasteland since 2016, and I'd been fortunate enough, I guess. The first time I came out, I was actually with a tribe that was within the city, and really loved being interactive, kind of building up, getting here a little bit before the event, because at that time they allowed us, I think, a day to kind of build our camps before everybody else came in, and continued on with that for a couple of years, and kind of lost tribe members and stuff. So I was like, okay, what's the next big step? And that was build, I guess, is kind of naturally how it went into. I had a partner who was within the build group or build team, and was basically like, hey, this is better than doing tribes. Like, come out, build with us. And it's very fulfilling. You get to build the city, basically. I don't know how to say it. It's I enjoy build almost more than the event sometimes.
Really?
Which is weird.
Yeah, that does strike me as a little strange, like coming out and doing a lot of physical labor. I mean, for the benefit of people only listening, this place is a city is the word to use. There's elaborate structures and a lot to do, and safety is such a huge concern, I'm sure.
Yes. No, the joke is safety third, but it is safety first. But no, it's really cool. I actually get out here when there's I think this year there were about 20 people on site. And you could walk, you could see everything, and to now see it filled here with buildings and structures and stuff is just crazy to me.
Yeah,
so I love it.
Yeah, is that what keeps you coming back? Just your love of it is?
Yeah, no, it's the love of the people a lot too. So I am polyamorous, and all three of my partners I have met out here. Where back home I cannot find or meet anybody.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it's a safe environment. It's great. I feel I can be more myself out here and not worry about it. Not worry about, I guess, more of the being a femme person. I can be out here, a little risky or more risque dressed. I can do burlesque, and I don't have to worry about someone coming up and touching me.
Sure.
Non-consensually. And if they did, like, the whole community would come and make that stop.
Sure.
But it just feels safe. It feels great. I can be myself. Yeah,
do you think that, sorry, I don't mean to dive into your personal life, but you did mention it. I'm curious. Do you find that the partners that you meet and the people that you connect with out here are, how would you compare them to relationships you've established in more traditional ways outside of this?
I think more open-minded. So I come from Texas, which is more of a conservative state, more close-minded. No, just open-minded, open to things, open to new ideas. There's a lot of different people out here at Wasteland and different viewpoints, ideas about life and stuff like that. So just coming out here opens up your brain to a lot of different things, sides of life, even socioeconomic words, socioeconomic,
like status,
sure. Yeah.
No, that makes sense, because out here, I mean, class doesn't really matter, right? It's not about who you are.
It doesn't matter. You are your person, and that is what it is. So I don't know. I think that's part of it. I couldn't really tell you. There's a lot of great people out here, honestly.
I have noticed.
That's what keeps me coming back. So
yeah. Do you shift gears just a little bit?
Yeah.
I hope this is okay. Rocket did inform me that you're also a firefighter. Is that right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Is that okay if we talk about that?
Yes. We're not going to use my real name.
No.
So that's totally awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Not using any real names.
Yeah. So I don't tell a lot of people out here. And I guess that's another fact. Like, I have a highly intensive, stressful job, and I can come out here and kind of let loose a little bit. And a lot of the things I do out here are not something that work would agree with. So.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I'm a firefighter. I know there's a couple others out here. There's a couple other nurses and professors and, you know, teachers and just people that you would not expect, and they're able to come out here and kind of be themselves, where society isn't going to judge them based off their job. So it's really great.
Nice.
Is that kind of what you were kind of trying to get into?
Yeah. That is kind of how has been my experience as well, meeting, you know, a firefighter, a nurse, you know, whoever, and just everybody sort of pitches in whatever they can give because they love it. So
yes.
do you see yourself calling it quits from doing this?
No. The community, I think at its core, is going to stay the same. That would be the only reason that I would leave. Like if the society changed, if the mindset and stuff like that, since the community changed, that would be the only reason. But I don't see it doing that. I think there's too many of us that love it and will continue to come out here, even if that isn't 20, 30, 40 years when we're all geriatrics and can't stay up past 10 o'clock.
When we're no longer wearing outfits, this is just what everybody has to look like. So aside from, so tell me just a little bit about like what it goes into building all of this. Like there are roads and signs, and just this looks like a huge endeavor. You must be exhausted.
Yeah. So I'm exhausted in a way, but you kind of learn how to keep going, keep rolling. I definitely next week will be in bed trying to recover a little bit. But no, a lot goes into it. There's a lot of very, very smart technical people who know different skills and stuff. Wasteland's actually an easier build than Neotropolis is, which is another event that goes on this site. I mainly have pounded a lot of T-posts. I'm part of the boundary crew, so we do the outer line and then the inner line, as well as any of the signs that you see up kind of that are event specific. Trying to think.
Gotcha. And sorry to interrupt. I was going to ask you about Neotropolis as well, because for the benefit of listeners, Neotropolis is another small festival run by the organizers for Wasteland, more of a cyberpunk sort of theme to it. I was going to ask you if that was the thing that you participated in as well, because that does seem to be the running theme of not only attendees also being like, oh, I go to this other thing too, but a lot of people from here voice that same love of Neotropolis. Is that your experience as well?
Yes. I've actually fallen in love a little bit more with Neotropolis and Wasteland. I think it's because it is a smaller event. Some of the lore is easier to get into and kind of dive deep, or not dive as deep, but you can kind of touch its surface level and still feel very interactive with it.
Sure.
I love the new costuming and stuff. And I mean, after doing this since 2016, kind of having a new genre to kind of like spill into has been really nice. And then on build, I actually putting up scaffolding. I don't know. I never thought that putting up structure would be so satisfying, but it's like little Legos for adults. Just the rules behind it, how to put it together, how it fits, and how you can make it move and do whatever you need it to do, which sounds really weird. The scaffolding's really cool. To work with. And then the cyberpunk aspect of it, the glowing lights and stuff, it does bring in a different crowd at the kind of extended level, but a lot of us that go and do Wasteland have loved having an event 6 months later that we again get to see all our friends and do all this again, but kind of in a different genre.
Sure. So. Gotcha. Just curious about you, like aside from the job and everything, what are your priorities in your life and your free time? I'm not trying to get too personal. What are your other kind of hobbies and things that you fill your time with?
I do. I also do Ren fairs in Texas, which I like to joke whenever people are like, "What is Wasteland Weekend?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay. It's not Burning Man," because I feel like that I've not been to Burning Man, but it's a lot more art installation. I feel like, and a little bit more party. But I like to say that Wasteland is kind of like a Mad Max Ren fair. Is kind of how it feels like, but everybody has to dress up, and everybody is interactive, where if you go to a Renaissance fair, like you have your actors and people who dress up, but not everybody is in, I guess, like character, but immersive.
Sure.
And this is fully immersive in a way. I mean, we look around and it's all like if we were in a movie. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
we're all
mean,
here, except
yeah.
for beer cans every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that they said in kindergarten that stuck with me, was you're an extra on the set of a movie. So if somebody wants to take a picture of you, let them. You put work into your costume, kind of a thing.
Yeah. There's nowhere that's not a bad photo because it's all 360.
That has been the my experience here. Is like, I want to get a cool photo by. Look around, take your pick. I mean, like, there's anything cool you could look at, any direction almost. So there is so much to see and do. Let me ask you this question. You've been doing this and coming and doing it for so long. Are there still things that you've missed that you wish you could do more of? Or?
Oh my God, absolutely. Every year I come in and I'm like, okay, these are things I want to do, or, and there's always something new you hear about happening. So this year, I was trying to get into more of the VIP lounges, and I've gotten into a couple that are really cool because most tribes will have like a secret back room, and you either have to do a mission for it or kind of ask around in a certain way. So I think tonight the Bombers have a fantastic VIP lounge that I've heard about and have not been able to get into, but I did a mission today to get into that. I think the Love Bombs, I accompanied some other people into their VIP area. Very cool, very awesome. They actually had a working telephone in the back that you could ring the front bar to bring back drinks.
That's so cool.
And then I think the Drunken Norwegian was another one I got into last night that I was like, this is so cool.
Nice.
Kind of a knock, answer a question, show something, give a gift. That was awesome. There's always something new out here to go see or do that I'm looking like each year. It's like, this is another thing on my bucket list. This is another thing on my bucket list that maybe I'll get to see this year, maybe not. But.
Yeah. Gotcha. I will go ahead. I don't want to keep you too long. I will go ahead and do the last question of the podcast, which is just, I always close all my interviews the same way. What is something that you've been enjoying recently? And your answer can be anything. Just what's something that you're jazzed about when you wake up?
I guess the first thing that came to mind was actually experiencing this event a little bit more sober than I have in years past. My nesting partner, which is the partner that I live with, has had long COVID for the past year and a half. And so he's got a lot of neurological deficits now in a way. He's not able to drink or even consume caffeine or sometimes sugar. So he's, I think the last 3 events, so Neotropolis, a Wasteland, and I guess, this event now, he's done without any of that, which is kind of weird because we used to party really hard. So I kind of chose this event. I was like, hey, I'm going to maybe not consume as much alcohol, not get as tipsy, and kind of roam around with him a little bit more sober, because he opened my eyes to it. He's like, you see a lot more. You see the little details, you see the interactions. You kind of have a more personal level with a lot of people. And I've partied harder in a sense that I've stayed up until 3 to 4 a.m. every night with him, interacting with people, getting to see a lot more and feeling more a part of the event, I guess, in a way, because I've been able to take more sober. So I've been excited about that in a way, because it's like, I don't have to, take in substances to experience this. Like, I can do this sober and get a whole lot more out of it, which is really cool. So
nice.
I don't know if that's a weird one.
No. That's a good answer. I mean, there's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
I always answer the question myself. So the thing I've been enjoying recently, since I've been here in Wasteland at least, has been some familiar faces. So I think that as a person arriving for my first year, it was so helpful to already know some Mechanismus crew who I was going to run into here, and some other friends from Spokane. But as much as I think I would encourage people to come and do this alone, I would say try and network with people. You don't have to. You can certainly meet plenty of people here who are
also flying solo that are here to do a cool thing like you, but meet people, say hello, and you will be rewarded. The greatest reward I've had since getting here is getting to talk and meet all sorts of cool and interesting people.
Yeah, no, if you come here solo, like, absolutely, you will meet people that you will hang out with the whole rest of the event. I will say the event gives as much as you get as much as you give from this event. I guess is the right way to say it. If you do come and you stay in your camp, like, that's all you're going to kind of see. You will have people kind of come by, but if you go out into the city, if you go out into the themed area and kind of just ask around, you're going to get a really good experience. You're going to get as much as you kind of give out here. Mm-hmm. So I like to say that to newbies. It's like, I found a couple that are like, oh, no, like, I'm not having a good time. I'm like, hey, go out, start to talk to people, start to do things, like, and as they do that, they really get that experience. So it's just kind of put yourself out there a little bit, and the waste will give.
Yeah. Agree. All right. Well, that is a perfect place to wrap it up. It is Friday Eve of Wasteland Weekend. We have just visited the cow fuckers. People are excited about the upcoming events for the night. Tonight is the biggest of the festival. We are in the unofficial camps here. We visited the Hoth camp earlier, where I enjoyed a floor burger. Wasteland Weekend.
As I made my way back towards camp one evening, a passing person in an elaborate costume with a white stained shawl and hood and a beautiful pattern-covered parasol caught my attention, as so many others passing by had. I commented on their outfit and asked for a picture. I offered a sticker and a bottle cap and found out the random person I'd stopped was Mia Sheen, and this Wastelander in particular was on the medical team. I asked for a short chat to find out more about that, and Mia agreed. We met near the medical tents as Mia finished their meal, and we talked about Wasteland. Here's Mia Sheen.
Welcome to Void Signal. I'm Brian Prime, Wasteland Edition. I'm here with, I'm sorry, I'm going to blank on the name. It's Mia
Sheen.
Mia Sheen.
Yes, I'm known as Mia Dean, the Mia Sheen. It's my tattoo moniker. I use this for Neotropolis and Wasteland. It just works for everything.
Gotcha. Okay. So first off, how you said you've been going to doing Wasteland for a decade.
That's correct.
Okay. What keeps you coming back?
Oh my gosh, definitely the people. It's sort of, there are people that fly out from all over the United States and some people from Japan and across the world, Australia, that I only get to see once a year. And the type of people that this event attracts, there's a lot of community builders out here, and that's something that attracts me a lot too. It's very a spirit of giving. Once you're here, the cell phones are away. There's not a lot of signal out here. It's a lot of human interactions.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Here,
okay,
I can try
we can
and
start
zip it
over.
down
That's
a little
okay.
bit. No, it's okay. Just keep talking.
Okay, I was like, we can batten
down
the hatches. I'm sorry.
No, it is fine. This is journalism on the scene. This is how it occurs. We fix things as it's going.
Okay, community builders. So that's more what I'm here for.
Gotcha.
So in particular, I love working medical because I like taking care of people, and this is a way to volunteer to get a ticket in so I can afford to come.
Gotcha.
And it just puts my skills to use in a way that is directly applicable to the community.
Gotcha.
I enjoy giving back because people out here are so giving. People will pour their heart and soul into theming their outfits, etc. Especially the ones that camp here, they have such a sense of community. We're like, hey, I'm from the Green Place, or hey, we're from DC and we're going to represent, and here, have my cap that I made. And then it's just like a piece of people's heart and soul goes into every piece of barter, every piece that they make, and every piece that you earn, you really feel like you earn like a namesake out here, or it's a very human interaction that you don't get in the real world a lot. Mm-hmm. And specifically community builders out here, this type of event attracts a lot of people that are like, hey, at the end of the world, what would you do? And some people are like, oh, we're going to have classes. We're going to teach people ASL. We have a library. Here, have some Gatorade. We have brought things to share. Mm-hmm. And that is amazing. Mm-hmm. I assume that the burner community is very similar. I haven't actually been to Burning Man, but I love burners. They're very similar mindset.
Right.
And I feel like those types of people that this attracts, and specifically post-apocalyptic, it's not how fashionable you are and how cool you look, it's how dirty you look.
Yeah.
And people are like, it needs more dirt. And it's sort of like a getting past like the page of like, judge a book by its cover.
Sure.
Is very exemplary out here. Because like some of the event coordinators, just like plain t-shirt and pants the whole time, they're just comfortable. And some people, the most elaborate cosplayers, and then you never know until you talk to someone who someone is.
Yeah.
And that it kind of removes that prejudgment. Unless you see like, oh, I like your costume. Like, did you make it? Do you barter for it? Everyone has a story behind every piece that they have, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. And wholeheartedly about the stories. That has been my experience here. Is that every person I give a bottle cap to or a sticker, or they have such a story to tell, not only about themselves and their character they have chosen, their identity they've made for themselves, but just they're an interesting person. Just in general, like I always feel like I got to go on to my next thing. But if I had hours, I could talk to you about the interesting things that you do. It definitely feels like the sort of harshness of the climate maybe forces more characters to show up. Would you say that?
I'd say Neotropolis, the other event at this site, that's more cyberpunk, but it's the weather is a little bit milder out there. Or at that time of year, I should say. I'm from Vegas, so it's hot anyways.
Sure.
I would say people camping with specifically technology put away, how people interact with each other is a very human connection that a lot of society has lost nowadays, especially since the pandemic. People crave that human connection. And I think being able to have that and have time be like, yeah, I have 10 minutes, or I'm on a side quest, or like if you're on a timed mission or something, like it's gonna happen. People are people, and it's even if you miss it, like you're not missing out. People will always welcome you back. Yeah.
So since you work in medical and you've been doing it for so long, when I first heard of this years ago, I was like, that sounds so cool, but the motherfucking Mojave Desert, like I've never been camping. So for people who might be on the edge of, I kind of want to go do this thing, but maybe I cannot, what kind of advice would you give that person?
Oh man, that's a really good question to ask actually. So first things first, camp and see how you do camping. Can you take the heat? How are you with the temper? Make sure that you bring electrolytes, and like if something goes wrong, have a backup plan. Get a checklist, watch YouTube videos, do some research, and specifically for the costuming as well. Especially for first timers, layer up, have a base layer that you're comfortable in, and then anything on top of that you can accessorize. So if it's sunlight, make sure that you have like linens that are breathable, that you can get wet so you can evaporatively cool, which is really effective out in the Mojave because of the dry. It's a dry heat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what we say out in the Mojave. I do love the Mojave.
Yeah, gotcha.
And then there's other post-apocalyptic wastelanding tutorials online as well. Like Nuclear Snail is kind of a celebrity around here. He is probably the most exemplary cosplayer, like tutorial videos for Wasteland Basic you could possibly get. He breaks it down really beautifully in a way that isn't condescending, and it's very it makes it accessible.
Right.
And it's so easy to get into it.
Yes.
So come with preparedness. So bring all your water, bring extra food, bring stuff to share, and bring an open mind and an openness to experiences. That is the best times I've ever had have been, I have no plans. I partied with a Viking camp and woke up with a kazoo in my pocket and a story to tell.
Yeah.
Like, those are the best, honestly. Take every side quest and have a good time. Like, plan a couple things, but plan time for yourself and plan your breaks, or your breaks will plan for you.
Right.
If you take care of yourself and listen to your body and listen to your needs, then everything else will fall into place a lot smoother for everyone around you as well. So yeah, that's pretty good base.
Yeah, good. No, fantastic answer.
Thank you.
So real quick, aside from doing this out in the real world, you mentioned being here for the community aspect, being a community builder. What do you do out there?
I tattoo people. I usually joke that, I stab people for a living.
Yeah.
So I love it. If I won the lottery, I'd still tattoo. It's the best job in the whole world.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
I work by appointment only. I'm incredibly spoiled by my clients.
Yeah.
So I have the pleasure of working on people. A, when I want, I make my own appointments. And B, I do a lot of photocolor realism, and then the others like nerd tattoos.
Sure.
But my favorite part, even if it's a memorial piece, but most of the time it's people see themselves in the mirror and they go, oh my God, I love that part of myself that much more. And that makes it fucking worth it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's my favorite part about my job.
Nice. How long have you been doing tattooing?
Tattooing for 7 years and henna body art for 7 years before that. So I have 14 years of body art experience.
Nice.
And then off and on 5 years of piercing in and out of that when I've had to. If I don't have to, I don't want to do piercings.
Gotcha.
But I can. I have the same certs.
Sure. Gotcha.
Actually did my own septum and outlined for my Earl.
That's so cool. They both look so good on you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah, I finally pulled the trigger last year of like, I always wanted this. And I was like, do it.
Oh, absolutely. You can always customize your character and have it update with who you are when you find out your stage of your life, who you are.
Yeah.
And you can constantly evolve too. That's an option.
Yeah.
That's something I'm learning.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people have a chance to learn here. Absolutely. Is that you can be who you craft yourself to be. There is a level of cross application to this, I feel. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. There's a sign or a saying out here that we who wander the wastes in search of our better selves.
Yeah.
And I think it's going back to that human connection. You got to ping that, and then pong. If you interact and you banter and you back and forth, that is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
And in that, you also discover what kind of person you are, how you respond to things, and like ping that pong, play back, and just see what happens and see who you are along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's self-discovery while you're dressed up in costume, interacting with people. Even if you're playing a character or someone else is playing a character, have fun and like be in touch with your inner child. Like, yeah.
I mean, that's what this is. I mean, we're playing in the dirt together.
Yes.
Yeah, we're playing dress up.
Every
in the dirt
themed
together.
costume event that I do, it's like we're adults with a drinking license playing cosplaying a themed event and then camping together.
Yeah.
And yeah, don't take yourself too seriously because that's no fun.
Yeah. Life's too short for all that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It'll feel like forever for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you too long.
Not at all.
I will put the last question to you, which is, I always ask this. What is something that you've been enjoying recently? And your answer can be anything, a book, TV show, just what's something you've been jazzed about?
Oh gosh. Honestly, Ted Lasso. Like,
Ted
I know
Lasso.
it's gonna seem off the wall, but
I don't know what that is.
it's on Apple TV, I think. A friend of mine shared his Plex with me so I could watch it. But it's an example of wholesome masculinity in pop culture that I've never seen before. Season 1 and season 3, phenomenal. Season 2 is not bad, but also like the season finale of season 3, I was ugly crying. It's so worth it.
Oh yeah.
With his character in particular, I think is really important for this day and age right now, because every act of kindness and every act of integrity and every time he chooses peace and understanding and outreach instead of volatility and reaction and like toxic masculinity, what would usually be expected of him, it has a domino effect on the people around him and inspires people to learn from their mistakes and celebrate their losses and have compassion for one another and be curious to understanding each other. And that is, I love that show is getting popular because it's been running my life lately. I'm just like, have you seen this show?
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I've made my favorite show right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good answer. I went to school for creative writing and cultural studies. So, watching a film and then discussing the feminist lens on this is what, or whatever, the
like
Marxist
Furiosa,
feminist representations in this, or I love that shit. I could do that all day.
Furiosa is the perfect prequel, by the way.
I loved it.
You have to watch it, Furiosa, and then Fury Road. Just give yourself 6 hours and snacks. And
I certainly did in the run up to this, and Furiosa was amazing.
Yes.
And I mean, Fury Road was amazing. Like, I'm George Miller. I'm going to take my white male protagonist and we're going to make him a background character to a better story.
His the movie he was going to make was a bit different. His wife edited it. And she actually is a main part of like the storytelling of Wyatt. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're a collaborative team. They're both absolute geniuses.
Yeah.
But when someone steps back and lets someone else have a spotlight and has respect for that, I think that is so important at the collaborative nature of human existence.
Yeah.
It's how we build pyramids. It's how we make this happen.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Actually, last night, there was a jugger I was talking to. He lost his voice and he was tired and his hands were so swollen from over helping. And he's like, I have to do announcing for tomorrow. And I said, one of my favorite aspects of the human experience is passing the torch to someone who can also help you carry it. Because we need our communities. We don't it takes a village to raise a child, you know, but we don't grow up and then become lone wolves that are completely independent of human interaction. No, we're not all Neanderthals. We need other people. That's what made us. We're social creatures. Sorry, I keep going back to this.
No. It's I agree with you. It is sort of the theme, and it's a thing that I have found that has strengthened my own life as well.
Yeah.
Of let the net catch you. The people around you are there to open their arms and catch you when you need it. So you just have to let yourself be caught.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a hard thing for people in general, but maybe Americans especially.
Especially, we're not as community minded. Actually,
Yes.
there's a whole tangent. I'll talk about it later. About solar.
That's a whole other discussion. Yeah, that's a longer cut.
It's okay. I can talk about that too later if you like. But,
Yeah.
I went to the Memorial to the Fallen. They have one for pets and one for people here, which I think is so important to be able to communally like mourn our losses as well.
Agreed.
And I went to for the first time. A very close, like one of my closest friends just passed away a couple months ago, and this is the 4th memorial / funeral that I've been to for her. And having that shared community grieving is so cathartic and healing. Like, I hugged someone who told me 7 years ago they never wanted to see me again, and we cried together. And that is healing as a community. It is so important to share. If you keep it all inside, you're going to hurt yourself, and eventually it'll express itself like pressurized steam. A very good friend of mine always says, joy shared is doubled and grief shared is halved. And it's so present here. You can feel the love in so many places. I just went to a double gay wedding earlier this evening at the Last Chance Casino. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And sharing people's joy amplifies it like the sun.
Yeah.
And sharing your grief, it helps ease the burden because everyone is going through something. And again, ping that pong, share the interaction, and have compassion for people.
Yeah, 100%. That has been my experience as well. A lot of very high emotions, myself included, as a soft man, if you will.
High temperatures
I
and
run
high
into
tensions.
people with just, the sleep deprivation is an element.
Oh, especially on
But,
Saturday.
yeah.
I work night shifts. I understand.
Yeah, filters are gone. People are just a raw version of themselves at
Absolutely.
times. And, I met someone earlier today, Rocket, who from the rec room.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
sweet.
She's one of the most.
But one of those people who's just there on that frequency that like your emotions get up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh man, Rocket is wonderful. She and I sign language. She's one of my DC crew. So
I took a single semester of sign language, but not enough to remember anything. So
that's okay. They actually have the Silent Assassins have a sign language class here.
Oh wow,
That's
so cool.
I had to sleep through it because of my medical shift. But
yeah.
Otherwise, though, like, yeah, if you have a class to share, if you have your friends that want to share things, like, go and encourage that.
Yeah.
It's sharing knowledge is so important, and I'm just really excited about it. But yeah, I'm so glad you met Rocket.
Yeah, me too. And real quick, one thing I do want to touch on while I have you and while it's relevant to what we're discussing, for people who might not know, like, not only are there all these official events inside the city, but the camps and the tribes themselves have a plethora of stuff to go and do that you could have a fantastic time without going in the city at all.
It's an absolute, like, choose your own adventure.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who come for all sorts of different reasons, but how do I describe this? If you come expecting a certain experience, you're going to rob yourself of that experience. Just come with an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
You can walk around and see if people are sitting out in front of the camp with a blanket full of barter in front, and that's kind of an invitation to be like, hey, do you want to chat? Do you want to look at my wares? Do you want to barter something?
Mm-hmm.
And barter is such an expansive and trade-based, like, it could be an ethereal concept as well. It's like, oh, can you run a quest for me if you don't have anything?
Yeah.
If you want things, we can do that for you.
Yeah.
And it creates adventures.
Yes.
And so, yeah, out in the camping, it's very community, kind of like tribes are having their own events and such, and like, oh, you can have it in the main stage in the main areas. That's kind of approved by the board, basically.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful, but they're also highly stressed because so many people come into the gates that are like, hey, what are you doing for free? But have the interactions, meet people, go back and meet people, and just, I'd say have no plans. I mean, you can have loosely structured plans, but the best nights have no plans. Just go with your ADD side quest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We will go ahead and wrap it there. So
Okay.
You can just flip this off and turn it off. Wasteland Weekend, Friday night. It is 3 a.m. and
city is alive over on the other side. Beyond these tents are more parties, more stories, mingling and interacting and dashing off to the next location and the next interesting thing to see. Friends are catching up. We're visiting old times. And speaking of people who couldn't make it this year, or those passed away, people work out their demons in the dark by themselves, maybe. And the dust takes it all.
Near the edge of Wasteland City stands a holy place, replete with stained glass windows. The Church of the Latter-day Restorationists are a fanatic quasi-cult religious order. Newcomers, or anyone deemed too clean, are often urged to visit so that they can be anointed in the dust and mud. I went and participated in this ritual myself, and I was urged to leave outside anything I didn't want permanently altered, which I forgot to do, but that's okay. In I went, and I was doused in the dust and mud, actually movie-grade dust particles and non-toxic brown house paint. After I was anointed, I managed to grab a chat with one of these cultists. So here's a discussion with Bang Away LuLu.
Welcome to Wood Signal. We're here in the Wasteland talking with
Bang Away LuLu.
Bang Away LuLu.
Yep.
I don't think I got your name before because I feel like I would have maybe remembered that. Do you mind if I ask how you got that name to start with?
Yeah, so that one, it's actually, I'm aware of the Ren Fair Poxy Bogart song. That's not where it comes from, but that is a fun coincidence. It basically started as sort of a name that a moniker I'd use for various things based off of this really badass historical figure, this woman who's a spy in World War II. And she, long story short, that was like her name in the French Resistance, basically.
Yeah.
And so it just, I don't know exactly. I also had a little hammer on my arm, and it all just kind of came together. And then I think you got to find something you're comfortable introducing yourself as.
Sure.
And when it feels right, you kind of know, and you're like, all right, this is me here.
Sure, you'll know when you feel it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So how long have you been doing Wasteland?
This is my 9th year.
9.
Yeah, so since 2015.
Okay.
I've gone every year except 2020, but no one went that year.
Right, nobody.
Yep.
What keeps you coming back?
I think really the community aspect.
Sure.
It's really amazing. I don't know. To be in a space like surrounded so much by so many people who share like so many of like your values and approaches to life and creativity and stuff is just a really, really special thing. And I love making stuff. I love seeing things people make. Just getting to share that. It's so vibrant and wonderful. And I think it's also, a level of catharsis in the world is because I've thought a lot about like, why do we like to pretend it's the apocalypse? Like there are much more comfortable things to pretend physically, emotionally, everything. But I think it's nice that we can create a future on our own terms, even if it is the apocalypse.
Sure. On that note, you mentioned it. Why do you think that is? What about the end of the world draws us here?
I think a big part of it is that it's like a complete reset and break from any of the structures that we have to deal with. For the systems in place that keep us from actually, expressing agency and community and creativity. Like you can barter here, and you can't really do that. There's not money or large scale societal systems in place anymore outside of the ones that we kind of define for ourselves in our like small microcosm of the world here. And I think that's really wonderful. I don't think I would actually survive if I had to.
Me either.
But I think that's the point, is that we get to like make a version of if the worst thing happened and everything went to shit, like we built this little community here. And I think there's a nice comfort in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I that does seem to be the theme from a lot of other people that I've spoken to of being able to choose their own identity, shape their own story and kind of a thing, whereas the real world sort of does not, maybe doesn't have the apparatus in place for such a thing. So you've been doing it for 9 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. You obviously love it and have fallen madly in love with it. And you do, just to inform listeners here, you work here at the Restorationists.
Yeah, actually met them at Wasteland.
Yeah.
I didn't know these folks until coming here and loving what they did and hanging out with them a bunch. And now we like visit each other outside of the event, like we camp together. It's really cool. Yeah. So.
I want to come back really quick to the community aspect of it too. Is that like you said, like it starts out with like you meet these people and they're doing a cool thing and you get involved. Obviously, you keep coming back and you keep in touch with everybody outside. That sense of belonging. Can you talk a little bit about like sort of what you feel Wasteland has given you? Like, do you remember, if you can, like your first day of your first year when you maybe had a moment of like, maybe this is not for me, or were you in love from the beginning?
The only time I felt that way my first year, it was because I was completely physically underprepared for the challenges of being out here. I truly don't know what I ate that year. I'm like, I didn't have a cooler or a camp stove. I convinced a friend to go with me, and we like shared a one-person tent. Like, I've come a long way with that since then, and I did not hydrate well enough. And that was the only time where I was like, this is a challenge, but it was just the heat. I think I don't know. I think a lot of the community now, especially at this point, like, are a lot of neurodivergent folks who don't always feel like they can communicate and be understood, myself included.
Sure.
Like,
same.
And this is like a really great place where I feel like I can, I don't know, communicate with people in a way that like feels so comfortable, and build that kind of around me here. And
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I've always kind of felt that, and that's really nice.
Yeah, a little more guard down.
Yeah, absolutely. And just feeling like, just like the way that you talk about things or approach the world is understood in the way that you're intending it to come across. It's just a really, really special thing.
Sure.
You know?
Gotcha. Have there ever been moments here at Wasteland where you felt unsafe?
Not personally, no.
Okay.
I mean, I know that like can and does happen in a big event, like
Sure.
incidences where people, but I've always felt very safe here.
Okay.
Like more so than going out in the real world, basically.
Sure.
Like I can walk around anywhere and feel very comfortable.
Sure.
And I really like too that there's just a lot. You can dress in a way that you would be nervous to dress in real life because it would feel potentially unsafe, or like, you know, but people can like walk around here naked without fear of being like harassed or I don't know.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Or
of that being the way that it would be in
human stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. So not to say that aspect doesn't exist, but I'm fortunate that I haven't experienced that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. If for people who might be curious about what Wasteland Weekend is, and maybe the Mojave is, the location is enough to put them off. It was for me. I mean, I heard about it forever ago. A band I wanted to see was playing, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to go for that reason. But I have made it here this year as a first-time camper ever in my whole life. And do you have any sort of words that you would want to give to somebody who was like maybe on the fence of like, I mean, it sounds cool, but I don't know?
Yeah, I think if you're willing to like just commit to the experience, sort of like, I was so nervous my first year. I had no idea what to expect. You have no precedent for this kind of event. And so there is that, like, I'm about to go into something super unknown, which is always kind of terrifying.
Sure.
But I guess just if you're kind to people and you're kind of say yes to the experience in that way, when you like see something cool, you get excited about it, when you express that kind of like aspect of kindness and community and excitement within yourself, I feel like I've gotten it back like tenfold every time. And so, yeah, as someone who, even after 9 years, and I love it and I will always do it, I get super anxious the week before.
Sure.
And it's just an unknown thing. So I'd say just, if that's the anxiety or the fear, I mean, you can't anticipate what your wasteland is going to be like. And that's amazing. How many times do we get to like go into that kind of world?
Yeah.
I think it's something really special. And the camping is difficult. I've refined that over the years quite a bit, that's for sure. Make yourself as comfortable as you can.
Yeah.
Don't cut corners on that. I'd say that's something big in terms of logistics. But yeah, I don't know. I think if you give yourself over to those positive parts of the experience, then you really do get them back.
Yeah, you were the second person to say that
Really?
today. Yeah,
That's cool.
Second interview, and I do have to sort of agree with you. My experience significantly improved after choosing to actively engage in things a lot more.
Yeah.
Take a quest from someone.
Yeah.
Go find somebody. Why? Because somebody else told you to, and they'll give you a reward. Or
Yeah.
whatever. You're enhancing. I ran into somebody earlier who was asking about my campmate for some reason, and I'm like, yeah, I'm camp with that person, and they're like, I'm on a quest to find him. Cool. Like, you get to encounter so many cool, interesting people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just really wonderful that you could feel like emotionally safe doing that.
Yeah.
Here. I think that's really cool. I mean, there's assholes everywhere, but for the most part, like, I don't know, most people are very receptive.
Yeah.
If you show excitement, you will be met with excitement.
Yeah, agree. What do you do aside from Wasteland? What's your thing out in the world?
I have a handful of things. So my day job is I'm a bicycle mechanic. So I work in a bike shop. Yeah, that's cool. I also
helps with this, I would imagine.
Yeah, totally. And I get so many like junk parts to use. It's great.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I like fixing things and making things, and that translates here. And I also act in like film, theater, voiceover stuff too. So I do a lot of voiceover work in particular. My voice is, I've lost my voice almost over the course of this event, but yeah, I think that also lends itself to engaging in a community in a creative and sort of character-driven capacity often. So yeah, I'll kind of put those things together. It's like, yep, this is perfect.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't want to keep you too long. I will ask you the last question that I always ask in every interview, which is just what's something that you're enjoying recently? And your answer can be anything.
Let's see. I'm enjoying having kind of like crafted and created a certain persona and aesthetic and costume that I really love and feel connected to, and getting to, at this point now, after sort of like having that set, feeling like I can branch out creatively into more like things that I wouldn't normally like wear or do or try. And that's really cool, is to be able to explore yourself and your own forms of expression over time through sort of an externalization of who you are and your character here. And I've been enjoying that lately.
Yeah, agree. That is a very key component to this whole thing, I feel, is the very distinctive sort of, like you said, expression, self-expression taken beyond the confines of the shirts you can order online.
Yeah.
Or the clothes you can find at a department store near you or whatever. You know, making things yourself and expressing, I want to tell this story for myself.
Exactly.
How do I do that? I think it's a very, at least I've found, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well, but I've found it to be a very sort of enriching experience. Yeah.
Absolutely. I always leave these events feeling more like myself. I don't know. It's really nice. And you get to, so many things in my costume. I'm like, oh, this is a cool thing I found on the ground when I was 8 years old and kept all these years, and now it's part of my thing. Like, you just get to weave a lot of parts of yourself together in a way that kind of helps you understand the ways you like to express yourself, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you make like a human tapestry of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And you get to like externalize that by creating things that you wouldn't have necessarily gotten to that place or discovery or just nice moments otherwise. So it's cool.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I believe that is it.
All right.
So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I will go ahead and stop this recording.
Thank you so much to Bang Away LuLu, Charles, and Maxine Machine, and the other people at the Restorationists for all their kindness. In addition to the cockpit and a number of other LGBTQ plus community-minded places was X-Corp's Corpse Bar, a queer-friendly art collective that was regularly playing gothic industrial music and hosted a number of queer-centric events throughout the festival. I stopped in on Saturday and spoke with the tribe's leader, Daddy.
So welcome to Void Signal. We're doing the Wasteland Weekend edition. I'm here with Daddy.
Daddy, yes.
X-Corpse.
From X-Corpse.
That is your tribe name. Tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do here.
All right. Well, X-Corpse has been an art collective for over a decade. We do a lot together. We used to host a bunch of art shows, and from there we started growing and branching off into entertainment. So we now hold like burlesque shows, drag shows, variety shows, sometimes nightclubs, just depends on what's going on. We also host some decomp events that are themed after Wasteland and Neotropolis. Yeah, that's basically what we do.
Gotcha. So aside from this, you're still actively doing community events and bringing people together, kind of a thing.
Absolutely. That's exactly what all of our events are about. It's about community, family, building strong connections with one another, and finding ourselves.
Gotcha. And how long have you been doing Wasteland?
This is our 7th year at Wasteland. This is our 5th year in the theme zone, technically our 1st year inside the city.
Gotcha. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have been coming in, stopping in often to enjoy the excellent music choices.
Thank you.
Great DJ choices and everything, and the aesthetic and everything that you have chosen and been going for in here. Can you tell me a little bit about that and its
Absolutely.
origin?
Well, we did notice coming out to Wasteland that everything is so beautiful and very well constructed, but we wanted to bring something a little bit different. There's a lot of rust, there's a lot of wood, there's a lot of, just dirty and broken looking items. We wanted to bring a little bit of art out to the space. And there are other artists, of course, and they do an amazing job as well, but I've noticed that all the colors are pretty much, there's like a very specific palette. It's tan, it's brown, maybe some white, a lot of black. So we chose our tribe colors to be much brighter, much more queer, because we are a queer tribe. And art is very important to all of us. It's kind of like our therapy. Not that I would want to dissuade anyone from going to therapy. It's very good for you. Yeah. But we wanted to continue our creativity and put it into something that actually fosters community building rather than just making objects for the sake of making objects.
Sure. Good answer. I like that. So would you say that that's sort of that sounds, at least to me, it sounds like that's sort of the guiding message for this whole endeavor, is just making a safe place for people that's a little bit different than what everybody else is offering?
Absolutely. We want there to be safe spaces at Wasteland for queer folk, especially neurodivergent queer folk. All of us are neurodivergent. We're very unusual and, maybe miss social cues and things like that. So a safe space, definitely.
Yeah, that is a thing that I have noticed since being here, and this is my first year, so I'm ignorant of whether it has progressed or not.
Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. Is that a thing that you have seen grow since your time here?
Absolutely. They made some really special and important changes during 2020 and put some really fantastic people into decision making for tribes and whatnot. That's been my understanding.
Sure.
And since then, I've seen queer tribes increase in number, but I've also seen tribes that were already queer actually announce themselves as being more queer. That's been my experience. That's what I've observed.
That has sort of been my, just to echo that sentiment as a newcomer, I've been walking the streets, handing out bottle caps, talking to a lot of people, and I do tend to focus on people that might get overlooked, right? Yeah. And I've noticed a lot of that exact demographic, neurodivergent queer, who are first-timers, who are looking for a place to belong.
Absolutely.
And that is sort of what drew them here. And so I do think that what you do is very important.
Thank you.
For people like that. So thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely.
So aside from Wasteland and this, what is Daddy as a person out in the real world? What do you do? As much as you feel comfortable disclosing.
Sure. I'm a video producer in education and nonprofit.
Yeah.
So I produce educational materials, oftentimes lectures. I'll record lectures and produce, educational materials that can then be applied to a syllabus for a particular class that's, studying a particular area. And I host events. So I'm a promoter in Los Angeles. I'm a small promoter. I've never had any ambition for, doing very large events. We like to keep it small and community oriented.
Sure.
But that's what I do with my time.
Gotcha. Okay. Going forward with this, if you had to narrow it down, is there, what keeps you coming back and doing this? I mean, let me pause there. I know everybody loves it, but I don't know, everybody expresses that love in their own words. So what keeps you coming back?
What keeps us coming back is finding a little bit more about ourselves while we're here. I did mention connection and togetherness quite a bit because that is definitely a part of it. My tribe and I were about 20 strong for Wasteland specifically, and we get closer and closer every year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of love, there's a lot of commitment, devotion, and definitely communication is key. We also live by a couple of different personal philosophies that are just really speak to us, and one of them has to do with the subject-object fallacy, which is to say that the English language, produces in the mind opposition. So, a lot of our words are based on understanding them by knowing their opposite. So, like, you cannot know light without dark. You cannot know up without down, right? And that creates, kind of conflict, right, in the brain. It just produces conflict. The self, the other, those are two separate entities when you're speaking about them. But really, they're not, because you can't know one without the other. If I am not a human being, if I'm not a conscious, aware human being, then how do I know you? And how do you know yourself, right? You can't know one without the other. So they're inextricable and they are interrelated. So in other words, we're just a bunch of interrelated processes connecting and interacting with one another. We're not separate entities.
Gotcha. Viewing it through that lens, so I mean, you come across, and we don't know each other that well, but a couple of minutes in passing here and there, but you do come across as a very sort of connection-focused person of like, we're about to interact, let's not make it stupid, let's give some meaning to it, something pleasant, something nice. So it does sort of seem, you send that out over the waves, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So, very well done in that respect. But, sorry.
That's okay.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long, so I want to go ahead and put the 2 questions to you. The first one would be that anybody who's on the fence, who's maybe like a neurodivergent queer person who's maybe thinking about they want to go, but the Mojave fucking desert.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person? What do you think that they could gain by going?
Lifelong friendships, to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong, there's conflict all over the world.
Sure.
We all have our interpersonal conflicts, but this is a space where you can actually grow from those things. Find your community, or at least find, some people that you can relate to. And I know that, from personal experience, being queer and unusual can be very isolating and lonely. So, even if you're not a person who really enjoys socializing too much, but you still need that connection, there are plenty of spaces in the wastes that you can relax, unwind, and people watch. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to socialize, or you can if you want.
Yeah, and it is worth it. I have found, even as a newbie myself in the past few days, of like, you, as much as you engage with it is what you get out of it. And so
absolutely,
there's a lot of, I attended the kindergarten class, and there's a lot of hand holding where I need it, and like, this is how this works and this is how that works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. I would definitely encourage people to seek it out and give it a try. It's worth all this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like maybe the extreme nature of where this is sort of files away some of the less devout, or however you wish to say, the less hardcore, maybe.
It's one of those things that I was talking about when I said that you come out here to find yourself. You learn more about yourself being removed from your day-to-day stressors and being put under, a significant amount of physical endurance. There's physical stressors here, and it's tolerable, it's doable. You have to know how to do it, and it's a very good idea to make sure you read everything on the Wasteland website. But challenging yourself in a new way, even if you have limitations, right? Even when you have limitations, challenging yourself in a new way just helps you find another part of yourself that you didn't know was there to make you a stronger person.
Agree. Fantastic answers. Thank you so much. I will go ahead and put the last question to you, which is what I always ask. What is something you have been enjoying recently? Your answer can be anything, a book, a movie, a TV show. Just what's something that you've been jazzed about when you wake up?
I have been really jazzed, honestly, about my patio. I spend a lot of time on my patio right now. I don't get to spend a lot of time outside, and my yard is uncovered. So we bought a gazebo. We all pulled our money together and bought a gazebo. And I've just really been enjoying my time out there. It's been very peaceful. My yard is very green and luscious, and spending time with nature while still being able to get my work done has been amazing.
Nice. That's so lovely. Nice.
Thank you.
I always answer the question myself, so I'll try and mix it up because I've given this answer a couple of times today. But aside from all of the people here who've been wonderful, the music, running into people playing things I know. I was passing by the other night, and they're playing Health in here. I got to dip in here, or they were playing Assemblage 23 in here. I got to dip in here and get on the bottle cap and stuff. That has been nice too, to sort of hear the non-mainstream drifting out of doors and like, my people might be in there kind of a thing. You hear something and I think there's a lot of really strong sort of, not just the music, but there's a lot of sort of everything in here to sort of draw people in, whether it's
absolutely
anything.
I agree with that sentiment. There's a lot of tribes that do play a lot of, mainstream metal and things like that, which is great. That's fantastic. Sure. We try to bring something a little bit different as well. For example, the other night we played World Trap. So we're talking Southeast Asian, we're talking, African, we're talking from all over the world, Bulgaria. It's really good music. I definitely recommend checking it out. A lot of it is peaceful, but also still has a little bit of style and heartbeat.
Cool. I will do so. Awesome. Well, that is it. I will hit stop recording right now. It is the final day of Wasteland Weekend. Final evening. People are advised to party moderate.
into town from our camp to do a quick interview and see what kind of festivities the evening shakes out with. There will be revelry on every corner. Wandering the wasteland, who I recognized but had no time to say hello to, was Wasteland personality Makeshift. In addition to working on Wasteland in an official capacity as a videographer, Makeshift produces a podcast, The Apocalypse Post, and YouTube content with tutorial videos and a number of other projects. He's a fabulously talented and busy guy, and he's attended a lot of these in a variety of capacities, and I wanted to hear his perspective on Wasteland. So we caught up a few weeks after the event. Here's the chat with Makeshift. Welcome to Void Signal. I am joined by Mike Makeshift. You are a personality. You have a YouTube and a podcast, and you're a musician and a thoughtful person, and you have done a tremendous amount of content associated with Wasteland Weekend. And it's the main reason that I wanted to talk to you today, which is several weeks after the event. And I got some on-site interviews. And well, first off, before we dive into this thing, how is your evening going?
Oh, not too bad. It's I'm actually heading back to Los Angeles. So I'm in Albuquerque right now, which is kind of a second home, but I'm heading back to Los Angeles tomorrow to go spend some time with some Wastelanders. So I'm really excited about that. Nice. So I've been packing and cleaning and, getting the cat ready because he's coming with me. So yeah. It's been a good evening.
Nice. Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for your time and letting me have some of it. The thing I wanted to put to you is why Wasteland? What has drawn you to this thing? I mean, this was my first year, and I had such an amazing time. It was a thing that I had seen and I had an interest in, but I had sort of sworn off I couldn't do it. Right? Yeah. I can't do that. But brush with death later, and some surgery and some weight loss, and you're like, you take life more seriously, and you're like, suddenly you find yourself in the hottest wasteland they've ever had.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So I got involved in early 2011. So my story kind of starts when I first got to LA in 2007. I was kind of, a mixed media artist, just like I am now. I was a songwriter, I was an actor, I was an artist, I was doing all the things. And that's when web series kind of took off. And I ended up with my partner at the time, developing a web series called Alpha Planet, which was post-apocalyptic. It was kind of like Mad Max meets Star Wars, or no, not Star Wars, Star Trek. And so it was basically, everyone had to leave the planet because it was so destroyed, and have been living up on an Ark spaceship, but they haven't found a better planet yet. So they keep sending probes back to Earth to, find out if it's better yet by any chance. Very Wall-E in this case, but it was pre-Wall-E. So, they stole it from me. But they send this probe back with a small crew, and they discover that some people were left behind and have been living there in this post-apocalyptic wasteland ever since. And so, calamity ensues. You can actually still find it online. It's not my best work. It was very early stuff. But I was looking for an audience, was really what it came down to. I was just trying to promote it to anyone who was into post-apocalypse stuff. And I discovered, Facebook was still fairly new back in those days.
Yeah.
I discovered Wasteland Weekend and the people that were going, and I really wanted to go to the first one in 2010, but just missed it. And when the pictures came back and I saw everyone in their costumes in the desert landscape, and I saw that it was 2 hours from Los Angeles, I was like, oh shoot, I am not missing another one. And I was pretty poor artist at the time, making web series, and I didn't have much budget, but I looked at the website and there were some volunteer opportunities, get a free ticket if you do this or that. And I really wanted to sign up just as a photographer, because photography is, photographers won't say this, but photography is way easier than video. But my buddy that I had been shooting a lot with was like, hey, look, there's a documentary crew on the volunteer list as well. So what if we did that? And we signed up, and then he backed out, and I kept going. And so I've been shooting the highlights reel since 2010. This was my first year not running the team.
Yeah.
And it's been a ball. I've definitely found my people, and diving further into the post-apocalypse has been great.
The acclaim for it. The sentiments that you share of I saw it and I wanted it, and you go and you do, and you fall in love with it. That has certainly been my experience of, this was my first year. And after, I heard about it in maybe 2015, 2016, something like that. And was like, I threw a band a band I liked was going to be playing it, and I was like, this looks sick. Yeah. But, we wrote it off, sort of. And after having gone and experienced it, it is quite a scene, quite a... Definitely. There's a quality of character to every single person walking the streets. Like, I found myself unable to spend enough time with anyone. And everyone was so interesting and had their own story. So it's such a magical sort of a thing. You certainly have become quite a bit of a celebrity, almost sort of amongst it. I mean, people were excited to see you. I mean, myself included. I was like, I've watched enough videos. I've rewound it enough and heard you say this part again, because I was like, what the fuck did he say? So from where you began to where you are now, and all of your experience in seeing Wasteland, where do you see it going in the future?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was very behind the scenes, and a lot of people that were very involved knew me. And I would go around to each of the tribes. And so all the tribe leaders knew me, because I'd always ask for, the person who knows the most, who wants to be interviewed, because I was doing the highlights reel and a lot of other short content. And it wasn't until, I want to say, like 2016 or 17, I forget exactly when, but I put out this video that I was following along on some Facebook threads, and people were just asking a lot of questions that, the website answers all the questions that it has to, but it doesn't necessarily answer all of the very personal, nuanced questions. And so a lot of these things were coming up on Facebook, and I was like, I have the answers for this. Why don't I just do this? Because as far as like video, I was the only one really doing Wasteland stuff back then. And so I put together the top 12 things you need to know about Wasteland. I wasn't even dressed up that day. Like, I wasn't even in character. I didn't even do my hair, I just did it, not thinking it would be a big deal. And that video blew up for the first time on the channel. Like, I had done the highlights reels. I had done the We Are Wasteland videos, but this thing, because it actually was informative, got shared and people watched it. I mean, it's still one of my most popular videos on the Apocalypse Post. And that kind of changed the way I felt about how I interacted with Wasteland, because up until that point, I was telling everyone else's stories. That was my job as a documenteur. But as soon as I started putting my face on and like really talking about the event from a personal standpoint, it really changed the energy, and people started recognizing me as like this way of learning about the event and how to prepare and how to get to know what they should expect. And from there, I've been putting myself up as much as I can, really, between the YouTube channel where I do video. Now I started doing the podcast where, we tell stories, and I even do the audio drama, Legends of Wasteland City. So, I've kind of like gone back to my roots as an actor, artist, performer. And, I just started putting myself out there more, and, people seem to like the stuff I make. So it definitely encourages me to make more.
Yeah, good. Let me ask you, shifting gears just a little bit. Yeah. You have experienced so many of these things, and this was my first. By comparison to what you have seen, was there anything particularly exceptional about this one?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, this one was probably the biggest one we've had since 2019. So COVID definitely put a dent in our population.
Sure.
But it didn't put a dent in like the attitude people had or the great people that we had. If anything, it made like the crowd a little bit better by kind of like weeding out. My phrasing back then was the people who were not so community oriented, and I'll kind of stick by that for now.
Sure.
And so we've had a really good crowd, and yeah, this was our biggest year since 2019, which it was really fun to see it grow again. We had a whole lot of new people. I would almost estimate like half of the people there were first time. And honestly, it might be their only time. And this is just them trying out that thing they heard about, but it's been a very interesting thing to watch over the course of 13 or 14 events that I've been to, because it used to be, there was a main stage, nothing to do during the day. The tribes were where they would have invited people in, but it wasn't that kind of atmosphere. It was more like go around and just see the cool things people do. And then over time, people have filled in the gaps. They've actually created a full society where, everybody wants to entertain. Everyone wants to do these, do tribe missions. Everyone wants to create a space where people feel welcomed to come in, get out of the shade, get out of the sun, enjoy some shade, maybe share, some drinks. And it's honestly become the living, breathing city that it was first imagined as back in 2010.
You have spent a lot of time looking at footage and looking at people, right? Like you have videoed much, photographed much, walked all over, had, hundreds of hours of conversations from your time and from your travels. Is there a theme you have observed, or is there something that you have noticed amongst the people who come here that maybe separates them?
Yeah. It is the people. And I mean, if Wasteland Weekend stopped doing events tomorrow, the community would still be there. There would still be, it has spawned events across the country. There are several events just in LA. And honestly, I wish I was still there. I lived in LA up until 2017, and the community wasn't the way it is now. I think that's another side effect of COVID. I think the community really got closer. I keep hearing about all these get-togethers and parties and decomp events. And it is the people, because they really care about each other, and we're all flawed in different ways. But just like when I first started creating the We Are Wasteland videos, it's the fact that we care about each other. We're there for each other. When you put yourself in this post-apocalyptic atmosphere of being in the Mojave Desert, where there's no electricity, no running water, it's hot, it's cold. You can always drive to town and get supplies, but if you dedicate yourself and stay on site, what you bring is what you have. In the early years, we didn't have the vendors, and now we do. So that's better, but also it's always been about the community being there for each other. I remember my first event, I was putting up my GP tent for the first time in the desert, brought the wrong stakes, because the stakes that worked in a park in LA did not work in the Mojave Desert, and it's soft gravel sand. And a guy wearing nothing but a loincloth, who showed up on just a motorcycle with a jar of peanut butter, came over and started hitting spikes with a rock, because I only had one hammer to get them to stay, and that's what Wasteland has always been. It's everyone out there providing a service for each other. I colloquially, and very much, this is just me, this is not an official thing whatsoever, but I've always called Tuesday night, which is the last night of build, because the event always starts on a Wednesday. I always call it Tribes Night. And it's because that's the night when everyone who's been building all weekend kind of goes around and just says hi, and shares a drink and previews each other's work. And it's that night that you realize, like, we do this for each other. Like, it's fun to go out and set up a camp. I mean, you could go camping on your own anytime, but there's, I think the number was 3,200 or 3,800 this year or something like that. And we all come together and we create this alternate universe for each other. And I think that's the biggest thing, is Wastelanders, we're not the bad guys in the post-apocalyptic movies. Even though some of us play the bad guys, we are definitely the good guys that have established a community where we help each other, and we'll survive by the grace of the community.
Very well said. I would echo that sentiment as a person who, this was my first year, and I did talk to a lot of people, as many as I could, giving out bottle caps and stickers and such. And I did run into many another first year people, and who are you here with? I'm here alone.
Yeah.
Hats off, like, to anybody who's willing to just be like, I want to go. And even if nobody goes with me, I'm going alone to do this thing. And, a lot of people who were like, oh, I found it through something related to Fallout, and I came here for that. Another gentleman I spoke to who seemed like maybe this would be his first and only year, which is fine. It's not for everybody, but he was like, I came to see all the vehicles. He's like, I saw it through a thing about cars, and I'm into cars. And he's like, this isn't really for me, but the cars have been cool.
Right.
It's amazing to sort of see people flock to it. And like, it's such an interesting flame, that like a theme that has drawn so many from such a variety of walks. My experience as a first year was, I did a lot of prep for this to like get ready for it. And like, it did feel very worth it. And part of the reason that some of the other guests that I've had, Wasteland related guests that I've asked, I put the question to them because the Void Signal audience is primarily people who are into sort of the dark music scene or electronic music or what have you. I found that my own experience there was a very welcoming one, and one that was sort of very community driven, as you mentioned, and sort of open to sort of neurodivergent people. If you could speak to that person in, wherever they are, and they're like, I kind of want to go do this thing. What would you say? What kind of advice would you give? Or
well, I'd start by saying, and this is specifically to someone that's neurodivergent or has any kind of social anxieties or whatever it happens to be. Everyone running Wasteland feels like they fit somewhere on that spectrum. There's very few people that don't see themselves as just a little bit socially weird or like really nerdy or whatever the terminology happens to be. But I gotta say, it is one of the most welcoming atmospheres you can ever ask for. One of the most accepting. There's very little judgment, but at the same time, the community will call you out if you're being a dick, which I really appreciate because it kind of helps us police our own atmosphere. But yeah, I've met a lot of people that aren't normally comfortable in normal society that say they found a place where they can be themselves and be comfortable and be safe with Wastelanders, because it is incredibly accepting of all aspects of life. And I think Wastelanders work really hard to, especially first years, make them feel not only welcome, but also important. Like a lot of our games, when we send people on missions, a lot of them are specifically for first years. My tribe, the Dukes of the Nuke, we have our armory. And if you come visit, we'll send you on missions. And one of our services that we feel we provide, besides adding a little bit of storyline and giving people something to do, is we've got a couple of guys that work for a prop house in LA. And so there's always a surplus of fake weaponry that we bring along, and you can earn your first gun. So for people that don't have a weapon, as a mercenary tribe, we're like, we need to arm the Wasteland, but we make it really easy to earn your first weapon. And different tribes offer services like that, where it's really easy to earn an accolade or become part of it, or, feel like you belong. And we've created these tools because, again, a lot of Wastelanders do have neurodivergency or do have social anxieties, and they want to help people like them feel welcome. There's a Wastelander who, well, actually a few now, I've seen quite a few posts on this, where they say, hey, you need a wingman for the day? You want someone to just walk around with you? Come sign up and, you can hire us, for a couple of caps. And caps are, they're the Wasteland currency, but they're free,
Yeah.
So I would say, this is absolutely a place where literally anyone can come. I would say, physical disabilities, you may have to be a little bit more aware of, because it is a dirt ground. There's not a lot of help that can be provided. But I will say, even the dirt roads make it so that wheelchairs and people that have a hard time moving around can. And the fact that we allow vehicles pretty much throughout, as long as there are somehow some kind of arted, you can pretty much drive it around. And when I say somewhat arted, it does have to be post-apocalypse. We did have a Burning Man car try to make their way around, and they were asked to not. So it does have to be a post-apocalyptic vehicle. But yeah, there's options like that for people with physical disabilities as well.
And I think the other, I agree. And just to add on to that too, is that I think the structure of the whole event, and it provides a lot of apparatus for people to engage with, and therefore engage with each other. What do I do here? Go to the post office. Why don't you go deliver some mail? And I went into town and I had that experience of, as a first year of, let's go deliver some mail and we'll go do a quest. And I did do a quest for Dukes of the Nuke. I received a weapon.
Awesome.
I forgot it one day, and I was in town Saturday doing interviews, and I was robbed on the street, unfortunately. Hey, you don't have a weapon. And I was like, oh no. And I felt so bad because I'd been so excited to get it. I was like, oh, I got a gun. Let's go do RP crime. But
that's hilarious.
It was such a fun. I was let go because I'm press. Got away. But it provides so many opportunities to have an interaction with another human that is not predicated on we're at a club, or we work together, or we are from this social class or this social structure, or higher, whatever. We're just here because we like this thing.
Oh, I love that, because one of the things I learned early on was Wasteland can be whatever you need it to be. You want to go and get involved and run around 16 hours a day, like I tend to do, you can do that. And you will never run out of stuff to do or people to see. But it's also like, just like when you go to sit at a bar and you don't necessarily want to interact, you just want to be there for the noise. Like a lot of people come to Wasteland to just hang out in their own camp and sit by the fire and have people either come to them or not. One of our former co-owners, Adam Chilson, was on the spectrum, and he would always talk about everyone in the city knew him, but people out in Tent City, which is kind of the general population, they didn't necessarily know who he was. So he would walk out there and just go invite himself. Well, not invite himself, but he would walk up to a fire and let people invite him over, and he would just go sit and talk and not tell anyone who he was. And that was one of his favorite things, was just kind of going and just talking to people, as they're quietly sitting by their fires. So yeah, you can get involved, like people that really enjoy this life. Like if you're a Ren Fair, not a goer, but a Ren Fair performer, you'll probably enjoy joining a tribe and then, creating some kind of a game or a LARP to play along. But also it's great just to go and enjoy the scene as well. And like you mentioned earlier, like car guys come and just play with the cars. Costume people can just come show off their great cosplays. But yeah, there's opportunities to come and do kind of whatever you want, which I guess is like a lot of festivals, but I don't think there's anything quite like this as far as like, having all the games to play and having all the tribes to see. It's very unique.
100%. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. The other thing that I kind of wanted to ask you about is what do you find is your own sort of personal motivation for continuing to be so involved in this? And do you see it ever ending, or do you, as you sort of touched upon earlier briefly, being a producer of content, the pay is not great, right? Like it's a lot of, it's a lot of like, I'm doing this for the love of it. And that's a lot of musicians as well. So is this a thing that you intend to continue to pursue, or are there shifts on your horizon that you would like to move towards maybe?
Oh, absolutely. This is something that as long as these festivals keep happening, I'll keep showing up. I mentioned earlier, I got involved because I was looking for an audience for my original web series. And while that never really came to fruition, what I did find was the audience. And I just kept kind of providing content that Wastelanders and post-apocalyptic fans would be into. And over time, I found myself, doing more FaceTime and creating different types of content. And the audience kind of kept following. For the last 8 or 10 years, I've been growing a Patreon, which has been an absolute blessing to this work because people enjoy it. And I keep asking, like, what kind of content do you guys want to see more of on here? And everyone just keeps saying, do what you do, man. Like, we love it all. So, when I started writing apocalypse songs, once again, because of COVID, and started performing and putting that kind of stuff out there too. People were all about it. When I started doing the podcast and the audio drama, people were all about it. And it doesn't get a lot of hits, like out in the real world, but within Wastelanders, like they're paying attention. And so I feel like, as a performer, as an entertainer, if you can find your audience, like you've won. And I've definitely found an audience, and not just that, but companionship and friendship and a sense of belonging within this community that I could not give up without a very strong fight.
Very well said. Excellent. I'm glad for you, honestly. And as somebody who is sort of went to Wasteland in the same sort of a hope, it kind of happened by accident. I had no intention of going, and then fired off a random email and said, "Hey, I run a podcast, not about this. Can I come and do things?" And, was given a discounted ticket, and I went and had an amazing time and did sort of go in search of an audience. And that feels like the people. I mean, honestly, those feel like people who, when they love something, they love it with their whole heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the post-festival come down has been rough for a lot of people this year just because of that.
Yeah, that has been my experience, experiencing it for the first time I was so close to that flame and now it feels so far. Will you be at Neotropolis this year?
I will be. So yeah, once again, history echoes itself in a lot of ways. I missed the first Wasteland, saw the pictures, said I'm never missing another one. I missed the first Neotropolis, saw the pictures, heard the stories, because now I actually knew people. And I was like, oh shoot, I guess, I got to try this thing out. And I went the first time, 2 events ago, and I was like, oh boy, this is another one I'm never going to be able to miss. So yeah, I'll be at Neotropolis. I've been going by Zerko there, but I might just let it slip back to Makeshift and let Zerko be an alternative character.
Gotcha.
Because everyone was calling me Makeshift anyway. So, but yeah, Neotropolis is a whole different experience, and it's tons of fun, and it's on the same location with a lot of the same people, but a whole lot of different people as well. And if you liked Wasteland, will absolutely recommend checking out Neotropolis as well. It's a whole different vibe, a whole different feeling. And I could go into comparisons all night long, but it's definitely something you should come try.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. Okay, well, I will go ahead and put the last question of the podcast to you, which is just, what is something that you have been enjoying recently? And your answer can be anything, a book, a movie, a TV show, just what's something that you wake up and you're jazzed about?
Oh, goodness. Let's see. Because I have been producing an audio drama, I've been listening to quite a few, partially because I enjoy the heck out of them and partially for my own education. But Dungeon Crawler Carl, it's on Audible. It's not even an audio drama. It's just a really well done narration. It's one of the best books and one of the best narrations I've ever heard. So I've been really into that. And then I also got to do a shout out to The Strata, which is another audio drama. That one's just on podcast sites for free. And it's really well done, a really great story, also post-apocalyptic and kind of a little cyberpunk as well. So yeah, I've been enjoying like being inspired by other people's work. And I'm going to say that carries over to Wasteland too. This year was a super inspiring year. And it was honestly one where I put the camera down a lot, whereas normally I'm just always shooting. And this year I didn't shoot a lot. And a lot of me regrets it, not having all this footage to work with. But at the same time, this was my first year, like really feeling like a part of the event and just enjoying it. So I'm grateful for all of these things.
Gotcha. Excellent answer. Let me tease a quick answer out of you there. What was it about this year that sort of inspired you?
Well, that was exactly it. This was my first year not running the video crew. I was still a videographer volunteer, but kind of freelance in a way. And yeah, just being able to experience things with my eyes rather than with a lens was a whole different way of looking at it. And being able to take the time to just sit still, enjoy, rather than feel like, oh shoot, I got to go shoot this thing. Oh, I got to go do this thing. And of course, doing 5 performances in 4 days was really fun. So I got to say, being able to take more time and do makeshift stuff as opposed to always working on the event side was actually really great. It was my first time kind of really being able to do it. Although I get the same feel at Neo because I don't volunteer. Well, I only slightly volunteer for Neo. It's hard. It's hard to not work, right?
Yeah.
But when you love doing it. So this was just really fun. And it was great to kind of get a new perspective on it.
Awesome. I always just answer the question myself as well.
Yeah,
and it has been a busy week. I managed to catch a pig tour twice, and going to shows is fun. Wasteland was... to wrap this back around to Wasteland, I found myself wandering over to stages and catching performances by artists that I maybe normally wouldn't have caught and having a great time. And it was fun to be able to hear so many diverse musical tastes on offer from camp to camp, wandering past, this tribe and, I know this song. And, let me rush in here and this DJ is playing something I know or something I love and out in the, camps and everything. People playing whatever they wanted, myself included, annoying everybody with whatever I like. And, but just, again, it was so cool to sort of, this is wrapping wildly off course, but like going to shows and seeing people be around a thing they love and seeing the excitement come out of them when they get to experience it, whether it's like, I know this song and people lose their minds or, I've been waiting to see this show for 30 years was another person that I ran into Wednesday night. Wow. And to see people get something that they want and see the emotion come out of them, it can be pretty amazing. And like in the absence of being at Wasteland, going to a show where people get excited and hearing the scream of people is kind of filling that gap a little.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. It has been a pleasure to talk to you. And that is it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been great.
Wasteland showed me there are people that, when given the opportunity to decide who they are, they decide to be wonderful. They wear elaborate costumes and craft fun stories to go with them. They play and laugh and smile and give gifts for no reason other than to give them. Wastelanders get to live their lives on their own terms for just a few scant days a year. You can come for the fun, you can come for the experience, and as an added bonus, you might just discover what really matters to you in this life, or some other personal revelation. It's a chance to earn the gift that keeps on giving: understanding, being able to appreciate sleeping in the dirt, having nothing, relying on others and yourself. It's a glance over the precipice we find ourselves on. Somewhere out here, you might just find that magical confluence of words and actions that forms your character. The meeting of what you say and what you do, earning you a name or a reputation, for good or bad, is up to you. The real world, the one beyond our control, is waiting for us when we leave, and it's no wonder people speak of what they call the drop. The return to normal lives and average worries. Storylines that we maybe didn't choose for ourselves, slowly watching as this fun fantasy event bleeds into our reality. In the Wasteland, every person is a page, a character with a narrative all their own, and we are merely the background. Down every street, plots are developing. People are finding themselves and finding others. Out here, people are big enough to make a difference, have an influence. It's a chance to feel in control again. Be the person you want to be without the fear of being less than. Because in the wastes, we're all nothing, and that's okay. For more information about Wasteland Weekend, visit wastelandweekend.com. Okay, our time is at an end. As always, Void Signal is ad-free and powered by a person. Hello. Please consider visiting voidsignal.net or patreon.com/voidsignal to support independent media, the Void Signal Project, and me, Brian Prime. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know in the comments, and I'd like to take a moment to thank Jared Butler, the owner of Wasteland Weekend, for the chance to come experience the festival and make a Void Signal about it. My love and gratitude to those in my life who helped make it possible, Grounded and the Dust Reapers. And my thanks, of course, to all of you Wastelanders I met. Thank you for making me feel welcome and for sharing some moments in the dirt together. I hope your days are kind. And most importantly, thank you, dear listener. Void Signal is nothing without hearts and minds to hear it, and I hope somewhere along the way, something is said that touches one of those things for you. Until next time, stay safe, stay loud, and take care. From the Wasteland and for Void Signal, this is Prime. Soundtrack for this episode courtesy of Processor. Visit processor2.bandcamp.com for more Processor. And visit voidsignal.net to support the creation of more Void Signal.